Douluo, leave everything on autopilot and become a god. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151, Absorbing the Soul Ring. Hu Jiu has been to the Stardow Great Forest many times. Coming here is like coming home. He is very familiar, even though he was entering from the north for the first time. With the help of the 5 sense enhancement technique, he was still skillfully avoiding the spirit beasts and looking for the ghost cat that Hu's Yuking needed. Point at the beginning, the forest periphery was full of spirit beasts that had been around for decades, and there were even some that had not been there for even 10 years. As they continued to go deeper, they crossed the range of the 100-year-old soul beasts and came to the gathering area of the 1000-year-old soul beasts. When he came here, Hu Jiu was obviously a lot more careful. When he encountered a spirit beast, he could hide if he could. Of course, there were times when he couldn't. Point the 5 sense enhancement technique is not an invincible soul skill, and sometimes a soul beast with a particularly keen sense of smell or sense of smell finds them. Point at this time, it was Xiaowu and Hu's Yuking's turn. Point just to exercise their practical ability. Point both of them are spirit masters of the agility and attack type, with fast speed and agility. Even 1000-year-old spirit beasts can be solved quickly with their combined efforts behind them. Xiaowu has never made a move, and he has tried his best to restrain his aura. Except when he encounters troubles that they cannot solve, he will not make a move. Point soon, under the leadership of Hu Jiu, the group came to a dark area. Point there are lush trees here, which completely block the sun in the sky, and occasionally a little bit of light is revealed, which does not have any effect on the surrounding environment. Point the environment that Hu Jiu and others were in now was almost the same as when it was getting dark in the evening. Point fortunately, several people are not weak, and in this dark night, the vision is not much affected. Point in Hu Jiu's perception, most of the soul beasts in the dark area are of the dark attribute, and many of the soul beasts he has only heard of by name are the first time he has seen them. Point Hu's Yuking had also encountered a ghost cat, but that one had just reached 1000 years, and the kitten's third spirit ring would have to be at least 1700 years old. Point I have to say that the master's theories are sometimes quite useful. Of course, whether these conclusions are the master's or not is still a question mark. Point after finding the first one, the next thing was simple. Hu Jiu collected the breath of the ghost cat, and the 5 senses enhancement technique was fully activated, and the ghost cat was quickly found by him. Point unfortunately, it seems that luck is not very good today. Among all the ghost cats, there is not one that is just right for Hu's Yuking. Point when one found the evening, Hu Jiu and the others' vision was completely dark, and Xiaowu and Hu's Yuking's vision were blocked. After all, even if both of them could use their martial spirits for night vision, it would be impossible for them to possess their martial spirits for a long time, consuming soul power. In the dangerous Stardow Great Forest, the soul power can be saved a little bit, and secondly, night vision also needs light. Point in this dark area, even the common fireflies are reluctant to stay here, and the surroundings are completely dark, so how can they have night vision? On the other hand, Hu Jiu and Xiaowu were not affected. One of them possessed the 5 sense enhancement technique and could clearly distinguish the surrounding environment even without eyes. Another strength has reached the level of a soul saint, and the soul power has been strong enough to form a wonderful force field around the body. Within this force field, it is possible to clearly distinguish the sound of leaves falling within a radius of 100 miles, and not be afraid of the dark. It seems that this is the end of the day. The Stardow Forest at night is not safe, and your eyes can't see anymore. Let's find a place to settle down and look for it tomorrow, Hu Jiu said helplessly. Point at the same time, when he took off his shirt, King Kong was in good shape, and the golden light of the skin on the sturdy upper body circulated. This was to treat himself as a light bulb, and to light the way for Xiaowu and Kitten. Hey, Jiu, I didn't see it. You have already cultivated to such a level that your King Kong is not bad. It seems that I used to train you too easily. After we go back, let's strengthen it. with the brightness of the golden light on Hu Jiu's body. Xiao Wuji's eyes flashed with a gleam of light, and he said excitedly, point to be able to emit this level of light, it must at least reach the level of Dacheng. This Xiao Jiu actually hit his hand in front of the teacher. He should hit him. Hu Jiu suddenly reacted, and in front of Xiao Wuji, he only showed that he was not bad at level 7, and the purpose, of course, was to avoid getting beaten. Xiao Jiu, you look like a little golden man. Xiao Wu touched Hu Jiu's bare upper body, and said with a smile, point Hu Jiu, wipe oil, don't make excuses, okay, come with me, I'll find a good place to rest all the time. Hu Jiu paused, turned his steps, and walked in the other direction. Point look fast. Under the leadership of Hu Jiu, they came to a spacious area and stopped to rest. Point. Just after resting for less than 10 minutes, Hu Jiu's face suddenly brightened, and within his perception range, there was a ghost cat that was exactly 1,700 years old. Haha, come with me, don't rest. Xiu King's third spirit ring has been settled. Hu Jiu stood up and said, where? Xiao Wu and ZHU Xiu King stood up at the same time, especially ZHU Xiu King. His eyes were even more expectant. Left. Hu Jiu pointed his finger in one direction and said with a smile, then, let's go, or the spirit beasts will all run away later. Xiao Wu said anxiously. The night came. It was the active time of the night's spirit beasts. If it wasn't quicker, maybe the spirit beasts would be out of Hu Jiu's perception range. Don't worry, you two can't see the way. Give me your hand and I'll take you there. Hu Jiu stretched out his hands, handing one to Xiao Wu and the other to Kitten. Point. Xiao Wu grabbed Hu Jiu's hand without even thinking about it, but ZHU Xiu King hesitated for a while. Then she reached out and held Hu Jiu's hand. Point. At this time, ZHU Xiu King's face was extremely red, but in the dark environment, no one noticed. Let's go. Hu Jiu's mind swayed. Xiao Wu's tenderness, ZHU Xiu King's slenderness, two different feelings, almost made him addicted. Point. With a spirit power running under his feet, Hu Jiu skillfully jumped in the forest. He also handed over to Xiao Wuji to deal with the spirit beasts encountered on the way. Now is not a good time to exercise his combat ability. Point. With Xiao Wuji around, Hu Jiu just kept his head down and hurrying. All the soul beasts were solved by Xiao Wuji one step ahead. Point. It takes half an hour to travel 10 miles. It's a pity for Hu Jiu. It would be better if the distance was longer. Concentrating his thoughts, Hu Jiu pointed ahead, turned to Xiao Wuji and said, teacher, the ghost cat in front of us is our target. This time, it's up to you to take action, so as not to make too much noise and disturb other spirit beasts. Okay. Xiao Wuji nodded and looked in the direction of Hu Jiu's fingers. In the line of sight is a soul beast with a pitch black body and a length of 1 meter, with dark blue eyes, as if it were looking at them. Increased gravity. The spirit ring on Xiao Wuji's body was revealed, and he didn't even need to possess a martial spirit. The third spirit ring lit up and instantly pressed the ghost cat to the ground, causing it to fall from the tree trunk to the ground, unable to move. Point. Hu Jiu approached with the two girls, let go of ZHU Xiu King's hand, and said to her, Xiu King, hurry up and absorb your third spirit ring. Chapter 152 Soul Ring Effect. The knife fell from his hand, and a ghostly stab simply and neatly solved the ghostly ghost cat who couldn't move. ZHU Xiu King glanced at Hu Jiu, Xiao Wu, and Xiao Wuji who were guarding around her, crossed his knees on the ground, closed his eyes, and began to pull the purple spirit ring floating above the ghost cat's corpse. Looking at ZHU Xiu King who was concentrating on absorbing the spirit ring, Hu Jiu said, I'll deal with the nearby spirit beasts first, so that they won't interfere with Xiu King. When absorbing the spirit ring, the aura of one's own spirit power is released, and it is very easy to be discovered by the spirit beasts with keen perception. In order not to disturb ZHU Xiu King, Hu Jiu decided to solve the trouble in advance. This is also the trouble of absorbing spirit rings at night. If it is during the day, it will not be so troublesome. Go and come back quickly. Xiao Wuji nodded and instructed. At night, Hu Jiu's perception ability is stronger than his, and it is more suitable for dealing with soul beasts. His smile appeared in Hu Jiu's eyes, and it was time for the 8 spider lances to open. It has been a long time since he obtained the spirit bone attached to the 8 spider lances. After this period of hard training, not only has he made great progress in controlling his spirit power, but his own control ability has also greatly improved. The back quietly broke open, and 8 grey-white spears appeared, propping his body into the air, his legs off the ground, and 8 legs prostrate on the ground instead. Start. There was a flash of evil in his eyes, and the 8 spider spears under Hu Jiu's feet were like phantoms, silently leading him into the darkness. He remembered that the 8 spider lances had an absorption ability in addition to being highly poisonous. In addition to absorbing the enemy's spirit power, this function could also allow the attached spirit bones to evolve. Hu Jiu had been curious about this ability for a long time. Today, just in time to try it out. Soul power controlled himself and restrained his aura. Hu Jiu silently appeared behind a black python. The 2 8 spider spears under his feet lifted up like assassins, stabbing silently. Laugh. The 8 spider lances pierced easily, and the toxin was injected into it first. Soon, under the effect of the toxin, the black python struggled a few times, and its aura weakened. Absorb. With a thought, a warm soul power mixed with vitality was absorbed by the 8 spider lances. A hint of red flashed on the grey-white spider spear gradually, and then disappeared as it digested. A small amount of soul power refined by the 8 spider lances appeared in Hu Jiu's body, which made Hu Jiu feel a sense of satisfaction. The refined soul power is not much, but it is comparable to the effect of hanging up for a day, which is better than nothing. Of course, this is not Hu Jiu's main purpose. His purpose is to let the 8 spider lances absorb it and evolve. It's a pity that he didn't encounter a human-faced demon spider this time. If it was a spirit beast of the same type, it would have the greatest effect on the 8 spider lances. Next, Hu Jiu absorbed several soul beasts one after another, causing the roots of the 8 spider lances to glow red. It's almost done. Call it a day. Feeling the murderous intent in his heart, Hu Jiu's mind changed, and the 8 spider lances were instantly taken into his body. Although the feeling of getting something for nothing was good, it didn't affect him at all. After absorbing several soul beasts in succession, he already felt that his calm mood was a little impetuous. This is not a good phenomenon. If he continues to absorb it, his thinking may subtly change, and he may become evil. In order to prevent this from happening, Hu Jiu decisively stopped letting the 8 spider lances absorb it. Quietly returning to Xiao Wu, Hu Jiu acted as if nothing had happened, with a calm expression. This time, Zhu's Yuking took a long time to absorb the spirit ring. After all, the age of the spirit ring that Hu Jiu chose for her was just close to the limit she could bear. For Zhu's Yuking, it was quite difficult to absorb the spirit ring. She waited for 3 hours, and when it was almost midnight, Zhu's Yuking opened her eyes, and a faint light came out from her eyes, as if it was bottomless. I've absorbed it. Looking at the 3 people who had been guarding her, Zhu's Yuking's eyes softened, and he turned into that childish face and huge butt. What soul skill did you get? Xiao Wu asked curiously. When a spirit master absorbs a spirit ring, the effect of the spirit ring obtained is very confusing. Even if 2 people absorb the spirit ring of the same kind of spirit beast, unless the martial spirit is the same, the effect of the spirit ring obtained is different. Even if the spirits are the same, the spirit beasts absorbed are the same, but because of the difference in age, the effect of the spirit rings will be different. And these are the directions that the master has been researching. It's a pity that this master has already been killed by Hu Jiu, and these research topics of his can only be inherited by Tang San. Soul skill Nether Ghost Eye. When the soul skill is activated, anyone looking at me will be pulled into the spiritual space and sink. Unless the spiritual power is too high, I cannot break free. Regarding his own soul skill, Zhu's Yuking was not convinced. Concealed. Told directly. Hu Jiu, the kitten's soul skill seems to be different from the original. Could it be that she didn't find the ghost cat at the beginning? Thinking about it, they had already gone to the Heaven Dao Empire at that time, and most of them would choose the nearest place. to hunt for spirit rings. And with the temperament of this kitten, it is impossible to ask others to find the best. Most of them listen to other people's suggestions and then absorb it. Poor kitten. What? A powerful soul skill. In this way, Xiu King's ghostly ghost eyes are more powerful than my charm soul skill. Xiao Wu said in surprise. Of course, your charm will work for me, but not necessarily for others. Hu Jiu joked. HMPH, that's not it. My little sister is amazingly charming, and no one can escape my charm. Xiao Wu defended in disapproval. Haha, yes, but it's best to use the charm soul skill sparingly. It's fine for me, but don't use it for others. Hu Jiu rubbed Xiao Wu's head and said domineeringly. It's not okay for your own woman to wink at others in terms of possessiveness. Hu Jiu's jealousy is very strong. Let's see your performance. Xiao Wu raised her hands behind her back and shook her head proudly. The scorpion braids on her back were up and down. Hu Jiu chuckled lightly. Okay, little guys, find a place to rest. We'll go back tomorrow morning. Xiao Walqi reminded. Seeing Hu Jiu, who was laughing with Xiao Wu, Zhu King beside him flashed deep gratitude in his eyes. She knew in her heart that without Hu Jiu, she probably wouldn't get the ghost cat's spirit ring. Even in the family, very few people get this soul skill. After all, not everyone can accurately find the most suitable soul beast for them. Thinking of her sister Zhu Zuan's secluded spring, Zhu King's eyes rose with a strong will to fight. Zhu Zuan's third spirit ring ability was obtained from the ghost cat, but her spirit ring was only 1500 years old. My own is 1700 years old, and with a gap of 200 years. The effect of soul skills will naturally be different. At this point, she has one. Chapter 153 Retreat Upgrade. Take a night off and wake up early the next day. Because it was a dark area, it didn't get much light even in the daytime, so Xiao Wu and Zhu King could barely see the surrounding environment. Let's go back to the academy. After Xiao Wu jumped happily, the group walked out of the Stardao Great Forest and rushed to Shrek. 3 days later, Hu Jiu and Xiao Wu came to Soto City. Flanders Soul Tool Shop. Boss, business is coming. Don't sleep. Hu Jiu walked into the store and saw Flender lying on a chair sleeping. At a glance, what? Do you want to see for yourself? Hu Jiu. The dazed Flender suddenly reacted. It's us. Xiao Wu said with a smile. Didn't you guys help Zhu King hunt for spirit rings? How about you? Have you found a suitable spirit ring? Flender tidied up his clothes and suddenly turned into a serious dean again. With us here, of course there's no problem. Hu Jiu roughly explained what happened during the trip and also mentioned Zhu King's spirit ring effect. Well, a good spirit ring effect. Flender nodded and looked at Hu Jiu. What are you doing here with me? I remember that dean has a big crystal here. Hu Jiu smiled and pointed to the crystal in the middle of the shop. It is 2 meters high and 1 meter thick. The crystal stone is pink, and vaguely, you can see that there is light flowing inside. What are you using this thing for? This crystal is worthless. Flender asked. Of course it's useful. You'll find out later. Hu Jiu smiled. After helping Zhu King hunt down the third spirit ring, he will also start his own plan during the holiday. He had a hunch that when the progress bar of this spirit ability controlled by spirit power was filled up again, there would be a big surprise waiting for him. Okay, you sit yourself. This thing will break when you touch it. Don't break it. Flender waved his hand and said, hey, it turns out that the dean also has a time to be generous. Xiao Wu looked at Flender in surprise. In her impression, the dean was always stingy. Of course, you are all my students. Can I still charge you money? Hurry up and take it, so that I won't regret it later. Flender raised his head and said proudly, haha, thank you dean, then I'm welcome. Hu Jiu was also welcome, smiled and came to the crystal stone, stretched out his hand, and put it into the soul tool point. Since the dean is so generous, then when you see Liu Erlong, you can find a way to match them up. Without the scumbag of the master, maybe Liu Erlong will accept Flender. After leaving the store, Xiao Wu looked at Hu Jiu curiously. Xiao Jiu, why did you buy this crystal stone? Haha, of course it's for practicing carving. Hu Jiu looked at Xiao Wu with a smile, her eyes filled with hints. You mean, do you want to carve such a big me? Xiao Wu looked at Hu Jiu excitedly and asked excitedly, well, exactly the same as you. Hu Jiu nodded affirmatively, yeah, hee, you're the best. Regardless of the occasion, Xiao Wu jumped on Hu Jiu and kissed him on the face. Oh, I can't do it here. I have to kiss the academy and kiss it slowly. Although the feeling of kissing the face is good, it is obvious that you can ask for more. Hu Jiu regretted telling Xiao Wu the news so readily. If she went back to the dormitory to talk about it, wouldn't it be think beautifully. Xiao Wu blushed slightly, got off Hu Jiu with a grin, and ran in front of him. It's coming soon. It will be 15 in 2 years. According to my mother, she married her father at this age. This is the tradition of Douluo continent, and I have to respect it myself. Laughing all the way, the two returned to Shrek Point. After finding an vacant room and tidying up a little, Hu Jiu put out the crystal stone he got from Flender. This crystal stone, called amethyst, is extremely fragile, and even a famous carver would not choose it to carve point, because it is too brittle. Basically, as long as the knife is used, a large piece will fall off with it. If you use a little force, the entire crystal may shatter. Although Hu Jiu was very confident, he didn't want to be disturbed in the slightest, so he specially found a quiet room to carve point with a wave of his hand. A very solid knife with a length of only about an inch appeared in his hand. Soul power control full operation. The tip of the knife is close to the amethyst. The tip of the knife just exerted force, and a shallow crack appeared on the amethyst. Only Hu Jiu frowned. The spirit power of his whole body revolved. One hand supported the amethyst. The spirit power covered the entire crystal, and the tip of his right hand moved again. This time, the amethyst was finally cut off by him according to his own wishes. However, Hu Jiu didn't show much joy on his face. Soul power was all over the crystal, and it was still a lot of pressure for him. Even if he had enough soul power, he wouldn't be able to last long. Carefully carved a knife after another knife. The palm is steady, without a trace of trembling. At this time, there is actually no need to be so careful, because Hu Jiu hasn't really started carving, and all he cuts are scraps. This is practicing hands and getting familiar with the feel. A quarter of an hour later, Hu Jiu put down his palm with sweat on his face, and the continuous output of soul power made him experience the feeling of exhaustion of soul power for the first time. Take a rest, and when the soul power is almost recovered, Hu Jiu starts to enter a busy state again. Halfway through, Xiao Wu came in to take a look. Although she really wanted to stay inside and watch her image be carved out with her own eyes, in order not to disturb Hu Jiu, she took a lot of perseverance to leave the room. Day by day, Hu Jiu almost lived in this small room. Start carving every day, as soon as you open your eyes, and don't finish until late at night. If it were other times, Hu Jiu would definitely not have had such great perseverance. But he's not like everyone else. He has an on-hook panel. In the panel, his daily achievements are clearly displayed. The progress bar keeps going up every day. There are still a few days left in 2 months, and with the last knife falling, the amethyst in front of Hu Jiu has changed a lot. A small dance glowing pink, in the state of spirit possession, stood in the small room, stealing the light from the entire room. On the statue, Xiao Wu's face was slightly red. Her lips were pouting, and her head was slightly stretched forward, as if asking for a kiss. Just when Hu Jiu was looking at his masterpiece with satisfaction, his head suddenly froze. A large amount of knowledge appeared in his mind out of thin air, and even the distraction and the 6 users were almost unable to react. After a long time, Hu Jiu finally digested the knowledge in his mind. This knowledge is the perception and application of soul power manipulation. These insights are 10 times, 100 times more profound than the previous upgrade to 10th level of soul power manipulation, which is simply the difference between heaven and earth. With a thought, Hu Jiu swapped out the on-hook panel, wanting to see what changed on the panel. Chapter 154 Soul Skill Advancement. Boom. Just after opening the on-hook panel, Hu Jiu heard a crisp sound. At the same time, I happened to see that the soul power control on the 4th hanger had been damaged and shattered into a golden spot of light. Seeing this, Hu Jiu panicked. Maybe there was something wrong with his golden finger. This is his greatest support. Subsequently, the panel changes again. Point below the top 4 golden spirit ring hanging positions. The panel stretched out a blank area. The size was just enough for a row of hanging positions. The light spot formed by the fragmentation of the soul power manipulation skill seemed to find a place to settle down, and it quickly turned into a stream of light that flowed into the blank area that was just formed. Hu Jiu stared nervously at the changes on the panel. This change seems to be developing in a good direction. Soon, all the light spots flowed into the blank area, forming a new soul skill icon. The icon is pure gold, and the picture is like an open palm, as if trying to hold something. At the bottom of the icon, 2 large characters in control appear. Soul control skills have become control. Hu Jiu sensed it carefully and found that the change in the panel didn't seem to have any effect on him. It's just that there is no level on the newly upgraded control skills, and there is no progress bar. So, the change of the panel just now is to simply move the position to free up a hang up position. Hu Jiu had a look of surprise in his eyes. The further back his on-hook panel was, the more difficult it was to unblock the on-camera slot. Until now, the 12th on-camera slot has only been unsealed a little bit. Now take control of the skill and move the position away, and he has another vacancy to hang up. Hey, it's good to have one more hang up position, but it also proves that the spirit skills on the hang up position have a limit. Just like soul power control, you can't upgrade after you have advanced to control. Although you know the hang up panel, it's not perfect, but I'm still a little disappointed. But soon, Hu Jiu thought about it. After all, even if his spirit skills could continue to be upgraded, he didn't know it would be the year of the dog. Now that there is an extra hang up position, it can be said that the surprise is greater than the disappointment. Looking back at the spirit control skills after the realm, Hu Jiu knew it. Controlling this is no longer simply manipulating soul power. It not only allows one's own soul power to be controlled at will, but even oneself can be brought under control. The body twisted at will, and he easily performed several difficult movements that could not be done before. The head can be rotated 180 degrees to see people from the back. His hands and feet were as soft as noodles, and he could do anything. The key is still soul power. Hu Jiu felt that if he used soul power to cover his entire body, he seemed to be able to completely hide his aura without revealing a trace. Originally, he was worried about what to do when Xiao Wu met the spirit Douluo from the education committee in Douluo when he arrived at the Heaven Dao Royal Academy. Alright, now, with this soul skill in control, as long as he stays with Xiao Wu all the time, he can hide Xiao Wu's soul beast aura, even if it is titled Douluo in front of him. At this moment, the door of the cabin was silently opened, and the little head quietly stuck in. Xiao Wu, come in and see my masterpiece. Hu Jiu beckoned to her. Funny, hey, Xiao Jiu, you're done. A surprise flashed in Xiao Wu's eyes. She pushed open the wooden door and jumped in. Wow, is this me? It's so beautiful. After Xiao Wu entered the room, she was instantly fascinated by the statue in the middle of the room, and she couldn't move it. Do you like it? Hu Jiu opened her arms and waited for Xiao Wu's embrace. I like it. I like it so much. Xiao Wu caressed the little face of the statue, reached out and hugged her gently, making Hu Jiu wait for a while. Xiao Wu, I gave you this gift. Hu Jiu put down his arms and said in a serious tone. Thank you, Xiao Jiu. Xiao Wu said cheerfully, but she only looked at her statue and didn't even look at Hu Jiu. Okay, as long as you're happy. Hu Jiu shook his hand helplessly. It seemed that he was looking forward to it in vain. At this time, a figure quietly appeared beside him and hugged him. Xiao Jiu, I like you so much. Xiao Wu buried her head on Hu Jiu's chest, her face full of happiness. Haha, I like it too. Hu Jiu hugged Xiao Wu with her backhand and stroked her scorpion braid with the other. The atmosphere is becoming more and more charming. After half a day, Hu Jiu tested his soul control skills on Xiao Wu. Soul power covered Xiao Wu's body and added some of his aura to the outer layer, making a layer of camouflage. Xiao Wu, you said, now that they meet titled Douluo, can they still discover your true body? Hu Jiu asked. Xiao Wu sensed it carefully, then raised her head in surprise and said, "It's alright, as long as the spirit power level does not exceed the 95th rank, no one will be able to discover my identity. If you hide it from your breath, great." Hu Jiu breathed a sigh of relief. Among title Douluo, level 95 was a big hurdle. And Ugubo, known as the weakest title Douluo, must have a spirit power level of less than 95. In this way, you don't have to worry too much about going to the Xiandao Royal Academy, but you should pay attention to it. At that time, it is best not to let Ugubo pay attention to Xiao Wu. So, little 3, I'm sorry to you again. Anyway, you are the protagonist. With the blessing of destiny, bad things can be turned into good things, and you can bear it. Put the statue away. My work has been completed. Let's go out and play for a few days. Hu Jiu said. Okay, I'll let Zuking and Gran take a look later. Xiao Wu smiled and prepared to show off the gift Hu Jiu gave her, leaving the cabin with ease. Hu Jiu began to think about the hanging position on the hanging panel. At present, he has a few self-created soul skills that he has practiced, such as hand knife, shockwave, white tiger sound killing roar, and nether soul suppressing bell. Among these soul skills, Hu Jiu's favorite is the hand knife and the ghost bell, because the soul skill of the hand knife has been cultivated to a very high level by him. If he hangs up, it will be even more powerful. But the nether soul bell is not bad. If you want to participate in the next Continental Soul Master Elite competition, you will definitely encounter Hulina. Even if Hu Jiu's spiritual strength is strong, she is not 100% guaranteed. Not affected. After thinking for a while, Hu Jiu decisively pulled the nether soul bell into the on-hook panel and started hanging up. After the nether soul bell was successfully hung up, the level revealed on it was level 2, which also made Hu Jiu gratified. It seemed that the results of his cultivation were not wasted. At least it was useful. The second level nether soul suppressing bell has formed a small bell in his mind. There is a crisp sound on the bell, which not only makes his thinking clear, but also automatically resists mental and confusing attacks. After the level is high, at least not will be deceived. Chapter 155 Tang San 039 Hidden Weapon. In the blink of an eye, the last day of the 2-month vacation was left. On this day, Tang San gathered together the Shrek 9 monsters early in the morning, causing a few who like to sleep in late to express their dissatisfaction. Among them, of course, there is also Hu Jiu. Little San, if you don't have a reasonable explanation today, let's go to the playground to practice duels later, just to let me see what progress you have made during this time. Hu Jiu said with a smile as she looked at Tang San. Little San, don't be afraid, brother will give you sausages later. Oscar yawned and urged, we'll practice again after Little San and 9th brother have practiced. Damube rubbed his fists, making no secret of his thoughts of taking advantage of the fire. Fighting is such a fun thing, how can you miss out on you little sister? Come on, little 3, don't wait, let's fight first. Xiao Wu said with a smile. Tang San looked at the crowd weakly. Although one-on-one, he is not afraid of anyone except Hu Jiu. But if he fights Hu Jiu and his spirit power is almost exhausted, others can easily bully him. Tang San, tell me quickly, what are you trying to do with us? If there's nothing good, don't even think about leaving today. A devilish smile appeared on Ning Rangrang's face. Hey, I originally wanted to give you something nice, but it seems that you don't want this gift anymore. Tang San shook his head in disappointment, showing a lack of interest. Is that what the third brother has been tinkering with for the past 2 months? The third brother, the younger brother didn't say anything. They don't want me. Take it out and take a look. Mahanjan's eyes lit up. It must not be easy to let Tang San fiddle with things for so long. Tang San smiled and wiped his waist, and a round thing appeared in his hand. I call this thing the Flying God Claw. While speaking, Tang San installed the Flying God Claw on his arm. His action suddenly attracted other people who had never seen the world, except for Hu Jiu. Of course. Seeing this, Hu Jiu felt that Tang San was too stingy. Remember, at this time, he had already created the soul-killing courage of the child and mother. Although there are not many, there are some of them. Point. If you can give it to Douluo for nothing, can't you give it to yourself? Next, Tang San proudly introduced the wonders of the flying heavenly god claw, especially the ability to fly over the eaves and walk the walls, which made several people's eyes light up. And this. Next, Tang San took out the divine's huge crossbow again. Point. When he introduced the lethality of the divine's huge crossbow, the light in Ning Rang Grang and Oscar's eyes almost ignited Tang San. Third, brother, can you sell this divine's huge crossbow to your little sister? You know, I'm an auxiliary spirit master. Although I have someone to protect me, how can it compare to my own strength? Ning Rang Grang coming to Tang San obediently, he almost rubbed his shoulders and back. Point. As the little princess born in the 7 treasure glazed tile school, she understood the value of Tang San's hidden weapons at a glance. If she could get some back to the 7 treasure glazed tile school, she didn't know how happy her father would be. It was said that her daughter was her father's little padded jacket, and Ning Rang Grang was a good padded jacket. She always thought of her parents' family for everything. Oh, it's still her own home now. Forget about selling it. Everyone has a share of these huge divine crossbows and flying god claws, but the hidden weapon is about surprises. If it's not a last resort, it's best not to use it. Tang San smiled and began to distribute them one by one while exhorting. Point. After getting the 2 hidden weapons, everyone's eyes became kinder when they looked at Tang San. Unexpectedly, Tang San, who usually doesn't hum and doesn't make a sound, can actually make such a powerful thing. Point. This brain is absolutely awesome. Point. When Tang San came to Hu Jiu, Hu Jiu raised his head arrogantly and said disdainfully, "Little San, I don't care. You know my strength. You can use these hidden weapons as toys. As for fighting, it doesn't seem to be of much use." In fact, in his heart, Hu Jiu was still curious about Tang San's hidden weapon. As he said, although it is not very useful, it can be used as a toy. He also wanted to play with such a black technology thing as Tang Man's hidden weapon. Of course I know. Tang San handed him 2 globes with a smile. "This is a hidden weapon I specially prepared for you. The son and mother chase after the soul. This hidden weapon must be matched with the hidden weapon technique I taught you. Day boss and they can't use it. Yo, it's almost the same. Give it to me." Hu Jiu's eyes lit up. Not only did he snatch his son and mother, but even Zeus Shen'o and Fishan Shenclaw also grabbed it. Point. He just said, after feeding Tang San for so many years, it should be a little special treatment anyway. This item is called the soul of the mother, and it is the most domineering type of hidden weapon I have made so far. You must be careful. Once it is squeezed or hit by the external force of the earth, its power will show up. These things are both used together. It needs to be sent out with the meteor chasing the moon technique. Maybe its direct power is not enough to hurt the title Douluo, but the suddenness it produces plus your strength is enough to block any enemy. The biggest feature of this thing is the user's inner. Oh, no, the higher the soul power, the stronger the power, so be careful when you use it. Looking at Hu Jiu, who was playing with his mother and son, Tang San introduced it carefully. "Little San, you are biased again. What you give to Hu Jiu are all good things, but what you give to us is not as powerful as his." Wu pouted beside him, expressing her dissatisfaction. Point. Looking at Hu Jiu's son and mother chasing the soul, he instantly felt that the huge god crossbow that he had just obtained was not fragrant. There's nothing I can do about this. It's not like you don't know. Some hidden weapons require special techniques to use. Even if they are given to you, you won't be able to use them. Tang San reluctantly spread his hands and said with a guilty conscience, "Then, I don't care. Hu Jiu has it, and I want to have it too." Wu started to be a rogue. This. Tang San looked up at Hu Jiu, begging him for help. Point. But Hu Jiu acted as if he hadn't seen it, still happily playing with his mother and daughter, ignoring Tang San's cry for help. Point. In the end, there was really no way to take Wu, so Tang San reluctantly handed 2 to Wu. Point. For the sake of his son and his mother, he spent a full 2 months. Moreover, how much has not been built in these 2 months after getting the things? Wu blinked at Hu Jiu and quietly stuffed Hu Jiu with her mother-in-law's life-threatening all. Point. Tang San, do you think I don't exist? Feelings, you two are just teaming up. to deceive my mother and son, to chase the soul and kill you. Next, as expected, Ning Rang Grong, this little padded jacket, started to bring things home again. She found Tang San and wanted to talk to him alone, probably to do business again. In other words, it won't be long before Tang San becomes rich. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156, Departure. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, the 2-month vacation had passed, and it was time to go to the Heaven Dao Royal Academy. As early as a few days ago, Kinming sent a message from someone saying that he had arranged everything and asked them to go to Dao Royal Academy as exchange students for a period of time. After hearing the news, Flender made a decisive decision and decided to bring all the teachers and students of the school together, so as not to delay Hu Jiu and the others' study, and secondly, they could also take the opportunity to practice in the mimetic training environment of the Dao Royal Academy. After all, these teachers also need to practice. Such a good opportunity, with Flender's temperament, will of course be used to the extreme. In the past 2 months, Hu Jiu and the others' spirit power levels have also been greatly improved, generally by 1 level, and even by 2 levels. Hu Jiu, Martial Soul Carrot, level 47 Food Type Auxiliary Soul Sect. Damu Bei, Martial Soul White Tiger, 40 level Attack Type Battle Soul Venerable. Tang San, Martial Soul Blue Silver Grass, level 39 Control System Soul Venerable. Zio Wu, Martial Soul Soft Bone Charming Rabbit, 38th level Agility Attack Type Battle Soul Venerable. Mahanjan, Martial Spirit Phoenix, 33rd level Assault Type Battle Spirit Venerable. Oscar, Martial Soul Sausage, level 33 Food Type Auxiliary Soul Venerable. Zhu Zuking, the Spirit Cat of the Netherworld, is a 32 Agility Attack Type Battle Spirit Venerable. Ning Rang Grong, Martial Spirit 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda, 30th level Assistant Spirit Master Meng Yiren, Martial Soul Snake Staff, 32 Battle Soul Venerable. Among them, Damu Bei and Ning Rang Grong broke through a big realm respectively, and they only needed to hunt for a spirit ring to become a spirit sect and a spirit master. Especially Ning Rang Grong, she has been cultivating vigorously during this time, because among these people, she is the only one who is in the realm of a great soul master, which puts a lot of pressure on her. A period of time. Early this morning, all Shrek dispatched. Flend looked at the Shrek sign hanging at the entrance of the village, his face filled with memories. Boss. Fu, don't look at it. It's not like we are not coming back. We will come back sooner or later, when the children succeed in their cultivation at the Heaven Dao Royal Academy. Zhao Walqi patted Flender on the shoulder and comforted. Hey, let's go. I'm fine. It's just that I'm old. I'm just a little sentimental. After another glance, Flender turned around and took the lead. Dao City, the imperial city of the Dao Empire. Located in the northeast direction of the center of the Heaven Dao Empire, it is the core of the political power of the entire Heaven Dao Empire, and it is also one of the 2 largest cities in the entire continent. In Douluo continent, only the imperial city of the Star Luo Empire can compare with it. If the Shrek Academy group wanted to reach Dao City, they had to leave the territory of Berek Kingdom first, and then cross the entire territory of Sylvez Kingdom to the north of Berek Kingdom, before entering the imperial city circle of the Heaven Dao Empire. Further east, Fang is where the imperial city of the Heaven Dao Empire is located. The whole journey is long, nearly 2,000 miles. Okay, little monsters. You guys have also rested for 2 months. From now on, speed up your journey. Everyone must keep up with my speed, otherwise, Flender seemed to return to the previous one. It looked like, with a treacherous look in his eyes. As soon as the voice fell, he had already bounced forward. Flender, you old bastard, don't bother us old guys, if you want to save money. Zhao Walqi reluctantly grabbed the arm of Shao beside him and started running with him. Hey, here we go again. Hu Jiu shook his head and threw Oscar and Nang Rang Grong a carrot for transformation, and then he turned on the King Kong and followed behind the teachers. Let's Run. We are going to suffer. Oscar shook his head, ate the carrot in one bite, and turned his martial spirit into a white tiger with evil eyes. On the other hand, Ning Rang Grang chose Zhu Yu King's ghost cat Wuhan. Mu Bei, Rang Grang, isn't your rank raised? When will the dean take you to hunt for spirit rings? Hu Jiu asked on the way. The dean said that there is a sunset forest over there in Heavendao City, and you can hunt for spirit rings as well. Moreover, hunting for spirit rings for us now will delay the start of the school, so let us wait. Mu Bei replied, and the dean said that, even if we don't hunt for spirit rings, we can still practice spirit power. As long as we have spirit rings, the results of our cultivation will be revealed. Ning Rang Grang also followed. Okay, as long as you are happy. Hu Jiu was helpless. This was another one who was successfully brainwashed by the master. In order to keep up with Flender's footsteps, Hu Jiu and the others used spirit power. If the soul power is insufficient, eat Hu Jiu's holy light carrot to recover, and then continue on the road. They kept running like this, and it was only at night that Flender took them into a small town to rest. This time, it was rare for Flender to be generous. He waved his hand and asked everyone to stay at the hotel. Of course, there are 3 rooms in total. 1 room for all teachers, 1 room for Hu Jiu and several boys, and 1 room for girls. It was just such a little generosity that actually made Hu Jiu and others look at him with admiration, and he was convinced. After all, according to Flender's usual style, they should be responsible for the accommodation themselves. I'm exhausted. After dinner, they went back to their rooms. Oscar was paralyzed on the bed, and he didn't even have the strength to move. Why? Are you tired? I remember that you basically hung on me along the way, and there is also the transformation carrot of the 9th brother. You have the face to say that you are tired. Mu Bei glanced at him and said angrily, yeah, if I'm tired, I should be the most tired. I'm the biggest size, and I'm not very fast. I'm really exhausted. Mahanjan said weakly, stop complaining, hurry up and rest. There is still a long way to go. If you don't rest well, you will feel better tomorrow. Tang San sat cross-legged on the bed and said with a smile, hey, if you're not afraid of being beaten, you can actually use the carrot to change the dean's spirit. Don't forget, the dean's spirit can fly. Hu Jiu made a bad idea. Hey, this is a good solution. I should have thought of it long ago. Oscar sat up and looked at Hu Jiu excitedly. Don't think about it. Don't forget the purpose of the dean for us to run. If you dare to be lazy, Mahanjan gave Oscar a malicious look, his heart already showing the miserable situation. After he was cleaned up, I'll forget it. Oscar's excited expression instantly froze, and he collapsed on the bed again. At this moment, there was a knock on the door, and then Zhao Wu's head stuck out. Zhao Jiu. Come out. Oh, yo, Tang San, Mu Bei, Oscar, and Mahanjan. The 4 of them glanced at Hu Jiu, their eyes full of playfulness. What are you thinking? Hu Jiu rubbed his fists and looked at them with the same malicious intent. Even though he ran all day, Hu Jiu's physical fitness was not comparable to them. After a day, he was as if nothing had happened. Haha, it's alright, brother 9th, hurry up, don't make Sister Wu wait. Mahanjan said with a smile on his face. HMPH, be honest with me. After Hu Jiu warned a few people, he left the room and went outside. Colon, try to write 3 more in the future. If not, there will only be 2 more. Sorry everyone, the author is handicapped and wants to write well. The speed can only be slower. Chapter 157 Fierce God. It's been a day's journey. Why don't you take a rest? Hu Jiu said distressedly, seeing Zhao Wu's exhausted face. I can't sleep. Zhao Jiu, can you rub my legs for me? Zhao Wu said coquettishly. Okay, let's go a little further. Hu Jiu nodded, turning back and glaring fiercely. These dogs are eavesdropping again. After finding a quiet place, Hu Jiu sat down and beckoned to Zhao Wu. Come into my arms, I'll rub your feet. Ah. Zhao Wu was stunned. How did she rub her feet in her arms? Zhao Jiu had bad thoughts. Come here. Hu Jiu waved with a smile. To rub your feet. Of course, it is convenient to operate in your arms. Oh. Xiao Wu blushed and came to Hu Jiu's side obediently. Hey. Hu Jiu pulled Xiao Wu and put her in his arms. Aren't you rubbing your legs? Xiao Wu's voice trembled like a little rabbit meeting a big bad wolf. Yeah. Hu Jiu stretched out his palm, used his soul power, held Xiao Wu's leg, and rubbed it repeatedly. Under the influence of Hu Jiu's spirit power, Xiao Wu narrowed her eyes comfortably. It's so comfortable. Why didn't you know you had this skill before? Leaning against Hu Jiu's arms, Xiao Wu said softly, then you didn't let me rub your legs before. Hu Jiu smiled innocently, then he rolled his eyes, looked at Xiao Wu and said, actually, my massage skills are very good. Why don't we go open a room and I'll give you a full body massage? No, I won't be fooled by you. Xiao Wu shook her head again and again, her face turning red and bleeding. She felt that there was something in Hu Jiu's arms. As expected of Miss Wu, she knows a lot. Hu Jiu looked at Xiao Wu thoughtfully. The next morning, we continued on our way. Afternoon, they had already left the kingdom of Berak and entered the kingdom of Sylves on the same day. They came to the capital of the Sylves kingdom in the southern part of the border, Sylves City. For the first time in history, Flanders chose this big city as a place to stay, and when they entered the city, the sky just darkened. Next, Flanders' performance was a bit abnormal. He actually took them to a hotel that looked very luxurious and even ordered a lot of very hearty food when they ate. Flander, have you changed? Xiao Walqi said in surprise. When will the iron cock of Flanders be plucked? In this regard, Flander smiled and said nothing. However, after everyone had eaten and drank, his true colors were revealed. You haven't fought in actual combat for 2 months. There is also a big battlefield in this city of Sylves. You should also go and have some activities tonight. Well, you don't have to participate in all the battles. In order not to affect your journey tomorrow, only participating in the team battle spirit is sure enough. I knew there was nothing good, so the dean was waiting for us here. New Bay and the others were instantly stunned. To make Flender so generous, there must be greater benefits. Hey, it seems that the dean is going to make a big bet this time. Hu Jiu also became energetic in an instant and almost forgot that it is possible to gamble in team battles. Haha, it's good to know. Let's go, boys. It's up to you whether you can make a lot of money today. Flender showed a treacherous smile. The Shrek 7 Devils are the students he personally taught, and they know their combat abilities clearly. It can be said that they are invincible in battles of the same level. How could Flender forget such a surefire deal? It just so happened that no one in Sylves knew them, and they would run away after making a fortune without any trouble. Haha, Dean, just take a look, Shrek said with confidence. They haven't fought for more than 2 months, and they also feel itchy hands after eating Hu Jiu's transformation carrots. Flender and Xiao Walqi brought the 9 Shrek monsters to the Sylves Great Soul Arena. Among the 9 monsters, Hu Jiu and Amu Bei were already level 40 or above, so they were the exception. Flender was ready to send the remaining 7 into battle. However, when Flender signed up for the Shrek team, he was dumbfounded. Because of Shrek's outstanding performance, their badges have been promoted to Gold Dao Soul badges, but in the Great Dao Soul Arena, there is no team at level 30 with the Gold Dao Soul badge. I'm sorry, dear Soul Masters, we don't have a level 30 Gold Fighting Soul badge team in our big Fighting Soul field. I'm sorry, the staff said apologetically. This made Flender furious. Is there no one in the Sylves Great Soul Arena? You can't even find a suitable opponent. I'm sorry, sir. The staff member bowed his head and said, what about the Silver Fighting Spirit team? I can let them compete with the Silver Fighting Spirit team. Spirit Master, we can only challenge teams of the same level here. Of course, you can also challenge by leapfrog. If you leapfrog, you will not be restricted by badges. The staff was a little impatient. He felt that Flender was making trouble unreasonably. Is it possible to go over the tier? Okay, then sign up for the 40th tier soul fighting competition. Hu Jiu said to the staff. No, Hu Jiu, don't be ridiculous. Skipping grades is not a joke. I don't agree. Before waiting for the staff to agree, Flender first quit. Hey, it's fine. Hu Jiu waved his hand. I'll join the war later. Don't worry, they'll be fine with me. You Want to join the war? Flender's eyes lit up. Point. If there is Hu Jiu participating in the battle, then it is safe. The big deal. Let him and Douluo use fusion skills. As their levels increased, their spirit fusion skills became more and more powerful. Now, even at the Soul Emperor stage, they were not weak, and it was easy to deal with a group of 40 level teams. Okay, then be careful. If it doesn't work, don't keep it. Flender nodded excitedly. He felt that his purse was about to swell today. Okay. Hu Jiu nodded, took the battle spirit badge, started the formalities, and added his name to the Shrek team. Point. After signing up, they also quickly arranged opponents to fight with them. Ferocious God team. Hu Jiu looked at the team's name, touched his chin, and fell into contemplation. Point. Could it be that today is really the day when the Shrek team saw blood? What's the matter? Is there something wrong with this fierce God team? Douluo asked suspiciously. She knew that Hu Jiu had the 5 sense enhancement technique and was very knowledgeable in collecting information. Douluo's questioning attracted the attention of Hu Bei and the others. Everyone looked at Hu Jiu, wondering what was going on. This fierce God team is very famous here, Hu Jiu introduced with a smile. The fierce God team, the 40 level silver fighting spirit team, after entering the silver fighting spirit level, has a record of 31 wins in 46 battles. A total of 63 opponents have been killed. 98 opponents have been disabled. They are known as the weapons in the Silver Dao Soul team. Because of their fierce fighting style, no one in the entire Big Dao Soul arena is willing to fight against them. Chapter 158 Tang San 039 S method. So cruel. It's even more fierce than the original crazy team. This, can we win? Hearing the fierce God team's record, Hu Bei and the others looked solemn and fell silent. Seeing this scene, Hu Jiu raised the corner of his mouth and continued. The fierce God team has a mad dog tactic. In the team battle, no matter what kind of opponent they encounter, they will attack frantically with all their might. Even if they lose, it will be different. The opponent is maimed or killed. Faced with such a team, do you still have the courage to fight? Hu Jiu asked threateningly. Everyone looked at me, and I looked at you, but no one said a word for a while. Even Hu Bei and Douluo, who had the strongest fighting spirit in normal times, flinched a little. The ferocious God team is not an opponent of the same level that they have encountered before. This is a step up challenge, and the opponent is a thug like the fierce God team. They are all geniuses, so why bother with a group of desperados? Forget it, you will just admit defeat when you're on stage. There's no need to fight this murderer, it's too dangerous. Flender waved his hand and said to them. Although he wants to take this opportunity to make a fortune, he has a bottom line and will not let his students work hard. No, I have a way to let us win this victory. Suddenly, Tang San raised his head sharply, his eyes firmly saying, "Oh, talk about it." Hu Jiu asked with a smile. The others also looked at Tang San, waiting for his answer. Although Flend let them play and admit defeat, this method made them a little unacceptable. Which of the people present was not a genius, and which was not an arrogant master? Let them surrender without a fight. Who can accept it? Tang San looked at the crowd confidently. Remember the Divine's huge crossbow I gave you? There's no rule that you can't use soul tools in the Great Soul Battle, just because soul tools are hard to find and not very useful in combat, so usually no one will use it. But we are different. We have the Divine's huge crossbow. This is a battle type soul tool, and everyone can use it. With it, it is not difficult to win. Little San, are you saying that the Divine's huge crossbow can deal with soul sect level soul masters? Hu Bei asked excitedly with a twinkle in his eyes. Tang San shook his head. If the soul sect is prepared, the effect of the Divine's huge crossbow is not very big, but don't forget, as a hidden weapon, the most important thing to do is to be sudden, because the Divine's huge crossbow was a type of soul tool before. It has never been seen before. The enemy would not have thought that we have such a weapon. As long as they attack when they are unprepared, victory is ours. That's right. Douluo said that the reason why the hidden weapon is called a hidden weapon is that it is used to surprise secretly. Even if the soul sect can resist the attack of the god's huge crossbow, at least the 4th spirit ring skill must be activated. but when fighting, no one will open the fourth spirit ring at the beginning. We should also pay attention to this point. The enemy will not play with us. Hu Jiu nodded and said point it was because of Tang San's hidden weapon that Hu Jiu didn't want this opportunity to make a lot of money go to waste. If that's the case, then there's no problem. But I have to remind you one thing, the Ferocious God team is no better than the others. This is a very fierce team, so I hope that each of you will have the determination to kill later. If anyone is soft-hearted, your life will be in danger. Flender looked at everyone seriously. Flender's words made everyone's expressions freeze, especially the girls, who trembled when they heard the words. On the other hand, Xiao Wu didn't have much fear. After all, she and Hu Jiu had been banned from killing when they were 6 years old. Everyone, be prepared to see blood. Even if it's not for yourself, you should consider your companions around you. If someone is soft-hearted and hurts your companions, I believe you will regret it for the rest of your life. Hu Jiu looked at the crowd lightly, said ruthlessly point. Although Hu Jiu will make teleport carrots in advance and give them to them, but if he doesn't warn them in advance, he is afraid that some people will not be mentally prepared and will be frightened by the murderous spirit of the fierce god team and forget to teleport. It would be bad if that was the case. Hu Jiu's words silenced everyone. They didn't want to wait to be the one who fell off the chain. Tonight, the place dedicated to betting on the Great Dao Soul Field was extraordinarily lively, and it could be said that it was overcrowded. Because an hour ago, there was news from the Great Soul Arena that there was a team battle with a leapfrog challenge today, and the object of the challenge was the notorious Fierce God team. Although I feel sorry for the team named Shrek, it does not affect their betting to make money. No one would refuse such a surefire deal. The Fierce God team came out, not to mention the level lower than them. Even in the same level, they also won more and lost less. This is simply asking them to pick up money. Although the Ferocious God team is only a 1-to-1 odds, and the Shrek team is a 10-to-1 odds, however, as long as the capital is pressed enough, they can make more money. And the odds were still changing. When it was Flender and Hu Jiu's turn to bet, Shrek's odds had already changed to 17-to-1. I bought Shrek team 30,000 gold soul coins. Flender said, throwing out a gold soul coin stored value card. What did you say? How much did you buy? The staff member stood up and asked in disbelief. Buy Shrek 30,000 gold soul coins. Flender frowned. His face was very unhappy. This is Shrek who looks down on him. PFFT. The person behind the two who wanted to bet on the Ferocious God team couldn't help laughing, looking at Flender like a fool. With this kind of money, it would be great to buy the Fierce God team, but to bet on a team that is impossible to win. What, are you not a fool? Ah, you sure? The staff asked again. Yes, I'm sure. Hurry up, I'm in a hurry. Flender said impatiently. I also bought Shrek to win 200,000 gold soul coins. After Flender made a bet, Hu Jiu also stepped forward and threw out 2 stored value cards. Among them, 50,000 are jointly owned by the Shrek team, and the other 150,000 are his own. If you have money to make money together, if it is not tempted by money, how can everyone be so active in fighting? 200,000. The staff looked at the immature Hu Jiu in surprise, feeling that something big was going to happen today. The people watching the lively next to him also looked at Hu Jiu in shock. This is crazy. This is 200,000. Enough for them to use them for a lifetime. Even for some people, let alone a lifetime, it is 10 lifetimes, and 100 lifetimes can't be used up. Look at what I belong to Shrek. The family is rich and self-willed. What's the matter? Hu Jiu said impatiently, in a tone similar to that of a rich family. This is also something that can't be helped. If you don't do this, if someone smart thinks something is wrong and decides to beat Shrek in turn, it will be bad. After all, the more you beat, the lower the odds. Even if there were no other people, just the bets of Flender and Hu Jiu, the odds had dropped from 17-to-1 to 5-to-1. Chapter 159 The Power of Hidden Weapons. When Hu Jiu returned to the team battle lounge of the Great Soul Arena, the Shrek 7 Devils had already prepared, and his eyes were full of fighting intent. In this battle, because Hu Jiu played in person, Meng Still and Zhu Zuking voluntarily withdrew and did not participate in tonight's team battle. With Tang San's Divine Huge Crossbow, this battle had only one effect on them, and that was seeing blood. Don't look at Meng Still and Zhu Zuking. They are just girls, but they have seen blood early on. Needless to say, Meng Still has done this kind of training a long time ago under the intentional training of the unparalleled dragon and snake. It was Zhu Zuking. Although she didn't say the reason, Hu Jiu knew that it was, before she came to Shrek, that she was being chased and forced to kill. As for Hu Jiu and Xiao Wu, who had seen blood before, it was just to prevent accidents. After all, their martial arts fusion skills were also a big trump card. In the tense waiting, the time passed slowly, and the last team battle of the Sylvester Arena finally began. Hu Jiu and his party stood up and walked towards the main battle arena. The Golden Dao Soul Badge team is of course qualified to fight in the main Dao Soul Arena against the prestigious Fierce God team. Remember, your opponents are all murderous. Don't be soft-hearted later. If you see that the situation is not good, don't force it. Immediately step down and admit defeat. Flender instructed a few people seriously. Don't worry, there's no problem. Hu Jiu waved his hand, indicating that he understood. With him and Tang San in this battle, even if he wanted to lose, he couldn't. The big deal is to expose a trump card. Under the leadership of the staff, a group of 7 people stepped forward and walked straight to the main battle arena. In the battlefield of the soul, they finally met today's opponent. The 7 members of the Fierce God team all looked to be men in their 30s. All of them were tall and strong, with bloodthirsty light in their eyes. As they walked towards the center of the Dao Soul platform, they clenched their fists, and their bones were sour of crackling. Looking at Hu Jiu and the others, it was more like looking at the slaughtered lamb, and the murderer Sora unabashedly rushed towards the crowd. Regardless of their aura or strength, the ferocious gods were the strongest team fighting opponents they had ever encountered. The timid Oscar and Ning Rang Grang were already nervous at this time, and there was even a layer of sweat on their foreheads. Don't be nervous. No matter how strong your strength is, if you can't use it, you're a weak chicken. Remember, we have Xia Zhen's huge divine crossbow in our hands. We only need to tap the finger lightly, and the victory is ours. Hu Jiu looked at them, smiling reassuringly. Oscar and Ning Rang Grang nodded heavily and touched the divine's huge crossbow tied to their arms. Their nervousness dissipated a lot. Tear them up. Kill them. Ferocious God team, invincible team. In the Battle of the Soul, countless audiences roared and howled, revealing the ugliness of human nature. The ferocious gods lined up in a row, and their scarlet eyes looked at them, as if they couldn't wait. Such a formation just happened to be cheaper for the Shrek team. Hu Jiu and the others looked at each other, and spread out one after another. They also lined up in a row, each facing an opponent. Ninth. Brother, if they really rush over later, can we block it? As the distance came, even Ma Hongjian, who had always been fearless, became nervous. Block? What? Just don't let them rush over. Don't think about it being useless. Hu Jiu scolded impatiently. At this time, he was already calculating how many gold soul coins he could get, so he wouldn't have time to pay attention to them. Okay, everyone get ready. Turn on the safety switch. Tang San said with a serious face. Killing is his first time. Of course, only this life. Shrek's 7 people's eyes lit up, and they secretly turned on the safety switch to ensure that the divine's huge crossbow was in a launchable state. Start. At this moment, the host gave an order and the battle began. Almost at the same time as the host's last word fell, the fierce giant bear Mengli, the leader of the Fierce God team, also issued an attack order. Tear them apart for me. On Shrek's side, Tang San looked coldly at the team of fierce gods rushing towards them and softly spat out a word. Let go. As soon as he finished speaking, the Shrek 7 devils raised their right hand, revealing the divine's huge crossbow in their sleeves. With a light clasp of his fingers, a strange mechanical collision sounded, and a series of cold arrows shot out. Each huge god crossbow can fire 16 sharp arrows, and 7 people can use them at the same time. 112 sharp arrows are like a salvo of 10,000 troops, and they fly towards the fierce god team. What the hell? The ferocious god team only had time to flash the last thought, and they were shot by arrows. Blood bloomed, and their strength gradually disappeared. Ding 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 ding. The dense arrows passed through the bodies of everyone in the fierce god team, and finally shot to the wall of the Douluo platform behind them, making a crisp sound. At this moment, the audience, who were still roaring, seemed to have been caught in a body fixing technique. And they all quieted down. Not only the audience, but everyone in Shrek was stunned. They did not expect that the Divine's huge crossbow was so powerful. The fierce god team stared fiercely at the Shrek people, and finally their eyes turned to despair. The tall and sturdy body felt like a mountain. Before that, the eyes were still on Hu Jiu and the others. Ouch. Ning Rang Grang couldn't hold on at first. She was frightened by the blood on the fierce god's team. Regardless of the occasion, she turned her back and vomited on the spot. Ning Rang Grang's movements were like flipping a switch, and then Oscar couldn't hold it any longer and vomited. Ma Hongjian was a little better than them, but turned around unnaturally and turned his back to the corpse of the fierce god team. Announce the results. Hu Jiu looked up at the stunned host, who flew in the sky. Oh, well, Shrek team, win. The host stammered, announcing the result. Although it was not the first time he had encountered someone who died in the game, such a neat and straightforward way of dying still shocked him involuntarily. This is the fierce and famous team of fierce gods. The battle ended just after the beginning, and it almost scared him to pee. As soon as the host announced the result, Ning Rang Grang immediately stood up and ran to the lounge without looking back. Xiao Wu followed closely, and Ning Rang Grang's appearance made her very uneasy. Let's go, Hu Jiu said lightly, looking at the silent crowd around him. It's just blood, and you'll get used to it. After seeing it a few times, a group of people returned to the lounge, not in a very happy mood. Seeing that this would not work, Hu Jiu decided to tell them a piece of good news to refresh their minds. Everyone, stop thinking about it. Think about something happy. Remember our bet before the game? At that time, our odds were 1 to 5. That is to say, the 50,000 gold soul coins have become at least 250,000. Let's go. Let's get the money together. 250,000? Mahonjan raised his head in shock. He had never seen so much money in his life. So many. Next to him, Oscar almost jumped up. Hey, of course there are so many. So, we still made a profit in this battle. Let's all wait for the money. Hu Jiu smiled. Chapter 160 Arrival. A group of people came to the place where the bet was placed in the Great Douluo Arena and exchanged the winnings of the betting battle. Flinda bet 30,000 gold soul coins and got back 150,000. Hu Jiu was even more ruthless. The principal of 200,000 gold soul coins had already become 1 million when he got it back. Among them, 250,000 belonged to the Shrek team, and the remaining 750,000 belonged to Hu Jiu. After receiving the bonus, they left quickly under the envious and hateful eyes of the surrounding crowd. If they hadn't watched the Shrek team's game, maybe they would have been besieged. Reo is so. When they left the Great Soul Arena, there were many greedy pretenders behind them. Unfortunately, in front of Hu Jiu's 5 sense enhancement technique, these people have nothing to hide. Not wanting to cause more trouble, Hu Jiu gave everyone some teleport carrots. And a group of people teleported away like that. Back at the hotel, Hu Jiu gathered the Shrek 7 devils together and began to share the money. This is 250,000 gold soul coins. The principal is earned by you fighting. The 8 of you can see the points for yourself. Hu Jiu threw out a few stored value cards and placed them in front of everyone. I didn't participate in the battle, so you share the money. ZHU's Yuking's cold voice sounded. Although she joined the Shrek team at the time, she didn't participate in a single team battle, so she refused to distribute the money. What? Nonsense. Even those Yuking didn't participate in the war. It's a matter of quota. It's none of your business. Everyone who has money will share it together. Xiao Wu blamed ZHU's Yuking and said, yes, everyone is from the Shrek team. If you have money, you will share it together. Ninth brother has money, but you have no money. Damu Bei said with a smile. Yes, share the money together. Ning Rong Grong and Meng Yiren also persuaded them. In the end, at the insistence of everyone, ZHU Zuking helplessly shared the money with them. 8 people, one of whom shared 30,000 gold soul coins, and the remaining 10,000 was given to Hu Jiu. The reason was that Hu Jiu was also a member of Shrek and should let him experience the sense of participation. Hu Jiu, look down on me. Don't forget, I'm the richest person right now. Xiao Jiu is indeed a rich man. Tang San looked at the stored value card in his hand, and without thinking he took out 2 and handed them to Hu Jiu. After so many years of cultivation, carrots, take the 20,000 yuan first. I will pay the rest slowly. Of Hu Jiu's carrots, Tang San and Xiao Wu ate the most. Now that they had money, of course they had to repay the bill as soon as possible. No, I don't want it. Hu Jiu jumped back in fright and waved his hands again and again. No, when you pay back the money, then how can I be a creditor in the future? Hu Jiu is a shrewd person. He has the money. He wants Tang San to owe him favors. Otherwise, why would he be embarrassed to ask for immortal grass in the future? You don't want the junior third, then you should have ours. Dame Yu Bei also smiled and handed over the stored value card. Immediately afterwards, Oscar, Mahangjan, ZHU Zuking, Ning Rangrong all handed back the prize money they had just received. What are you doing? You want to rebel? Take it all back. I'm the creditor. I can pay it back when I want to, and I'll beat people up again. Hu Jiu threatened with a grin. Although Hu Jiu said it very harshly, everyone was not stupid, knowing that he didn't want their money at all. For a while, everyone looked at Hu Jiu with moved faces. It made Hu Jiu feel embarrassed. Remember, back then, he cheated on Dame Yu Bei and Oscar a lot of money, especially Dame Yu Bei, who even lowered his rank for picking up girls. After one night, before dawn the next day, Hu Jiu and the others quietly left Silver City and continued to set off for Heavendale City. It's just that, because of the murder yesterday, everyone's spirits are not very good. Seeing this, Flender was very considerate for a time, and he took everyone on the road at a normal speed for several days, and stopped doing physical training for the time being. A week later, everyone was almost at Heavendale City. At this time, Flender discovered a problem. He didn't know the exact location of Xiandao Royal Academy. One person looked over and over with the map, but he didn't see the name for a long time. In the end, Flender became impatient, stood up angrily, put the map in his arms, and said to everyone, "Let's go to Xiandao City first. I won't draw carefully on this broken map. Who knows Xiandao Royal Academy where, President? So you don't know where the Heavendale Royal Academy is?" Ning Rangrang snickered beside him. "I haven't been to the Heavendale Royal Academy. Why, have you been?" Flender said embarrassedly. "Yeah." Ning Rangrang nodded. "When I was a child, my father took me to the Heavendale Royal Academy. In fact, the Heavendale Royal Academy is not in Heavendale City, but is outside the city just like our Shrek. Then, let Rangrang lead the way. Get there early, and settle down early." Flender stretched his brows and smiled. During this period of time, he was fine, especially Mr. Shaozin Shao, who was old and weak. After so many days, he was exhausted. After a rest, everyone continued on their way. Under the leadership of Ning Rangrong, they finally arrived at their destination, the Heavendale Royal Academy. When he got to this place, even Hu Jiu was cautious. The 5 sense enhancement technique was always activated, and he could sense the nearby breath all the time. Even holding Xiao Wu's hand all the time, her soul power spreads all over her body, hiding Xiao Wu's aura. There will be a title Douluo named Lonely Bow here. No matter how careful you are, this mountain is the Heavendale Royal Academy. Ning Rangrang raised her head and said to everyone, "No, Heavendale Royal Academy is a mountain." Flender's eyes became strange. "Well, the whole mountain is." Ning Rangrang nodded affirmatively. TSK. It's really a good place to be surrounded by mountains and rivers." Zhao Walqi was full of admiration. HMPH, what's so great? No matter how good a place is, what's the use of it? The students who are taught have not been defeated. If I say, the most important thing in cultivating students is the teacher's ability. Flender looked jealously. Facing the mountain in front of me, I was very unconvinced. Haha. It was rare to see Flender's appearance, which made everyone snicker. Let's go, Dean. It won't be easy to settle down when it gets dark. Hu Jiu said with a smile point in his perception, driving away the root cause of them leaving the academy. The avalanche came. Stop, who are you guys? Zubeng looked arrogant, followed by a dozen attendants, and blocked their whereabouts carelessly. Flender frowned, his expression even more arrogant. We are from Shrek Academy. At the invitation of your Heaven Dao Royal Academy, we came here to communicate. Let's lead the way. At first glance, these people looked like people from the Heaven Dao Royal Academy. As the dean, Flender didn't want to lose his momentum at this time, and he had to take it up. The leader Zubeng looked at Flender up and down, looked at his attire, and said with disdain, just like your beggars, do you want to come and eat and drink? Tell you, where are you from? Cheyenne Dao Royal Academy is not a cat or a dog that can come in. Chapter 161 Avalanche 039's acting skills. After nearly 10 days journey, everyone in Shrek was really busy, especially the teachers from Flender. They were not young, and they didn't pay attention to their appearance as much as young people, and their clothes were very simple. This is why Avalanche looks down on them. What did you say? Without waiting for Flender to respond, Damubei dodged to Zubeng and said coldly, you kind of say it again. Although Damubei's personality is not very good, he has one advantage point, that is respect for teachers. After running away from home all these years, in Shrek Academy, Flender took good care of him. At this time, when he heard Zubeng dare to scold the dean and them, he was blown away. You, what if I said it? Didn't you just come to our Heaven Dao Royal Academy to deceive food and drink? Haha, it's really funny to talk about it. Zubeng was first taken aback by the sudden appearance of Damubei, but then he thought that this was his territory, and he immediately gained confidence. Caught. Death Day. Mubei's eyes turned cold, and he punched Zubeng's stomach. Boom. Before Zubeng could react, he felt a huge force coming, and his body flew out, knocking down several younger brothers behind him, like a rolling good. This is still Damubei's useless spirit power. If he used spirit power, it would not be as simple as falling to the ground. You dare to hit me? Zubeng was helped by the people behind him, and looked at Damubei in disbelief, his eyes full of anger. Ha. Damubei chuckled lightly, and turned on his martial spirit. Too lazy to answer such an idiot question. Damubei's evil-eyed white tiger possessed his body, and together with the 3 shining spirit rings, Zubeng's group of younger brothers were so frightened that they retreated. Go on, everyone. Zubeng shouted in panic, and asked his younger brother to step forward to stop it. Damubei not only beat him, but also activated his martial spirit. He didn't want to let it go. You dare to show prestige in front of us even with this little quality? Who gave you the courage? Before they could come forward, Damubei had already taken the lead. After the martial spirit was activated, his strength was greatly enhanced. In front of a group of spirit masters who had not even reached the 30th level, he swept up and down, and knocked them over in a few seconds. Okay, Mubei, give them some face. This is someone else's territory. Flender said flatly. He didn't expect such a thing to happen just after arriving at the destination. Amazing acting. There is no flaw at all. He deserves to be the future emperor. Hu Jiu was surprised to look like a sloppy avalanche. From the time he first appeared, Hu Jiu had been observing, but after watching it for a long time, I didn't see any trace of acting, as if it was really a straw bag. This is a natural actor. You guys, how dare you make trouble at the Royal Academy? This is a provocation to the Empire, you sinners. Zubeng lay on the ground, his big hat skillfully buckled. Heh, rubbish is rubbish. Don't you only know how to bark? Damubei looked at the group of people on the ground with disdain, and even lost interest in continuing to do it. Beating this kind of person with your hands is like getting your hands dirty. At this moment, a vigorous and powerful voice sounded. What's the matter? Who is making a noise here? In the shade of the hillside, an old man about the same age as Flender rushed to their side, dressed in a gorgeous silver outfit. Mr. Sun, that's great, you're finally here. Zubeng looked at the person in surprise, almost rolling and crawling to meet him. Mr. Sun, these people are making trouble in the academy and even beating us. You have to decide for us, Zhu. Bengpi looked at the person with a bruised face and cried. Teacher Sun looked at Zhu Beng's appearance and frowned. Get up. What do you look like? After all, he is also the fourth prince of the Heaven Dao Empire. How could he be so useless? Teacher Sun is a discerning person. As soon as he saw Flender and Zhao Walqi, he felt their extraordinariness. With his 53rd level Soul King cultivation, he couldn't sense their level, which meant that they were either ordinary people or their level was higher than him, and they had to be a big realm higher. But how could it be an ordinary person who can come to the Royal Academy? Everyone please. Next, Sun Buayu. What's the matter with you coming to our academy? Sun Buayu ignored the Zhu Beng around him, but came to Flender and the others with a serious face. We're here to find Kinming. Just now, these people said we were beggars, and they told us to get out of the way. This is the conflict. Flender said plainly, without mentioning the fact that Dame Yu Bei acted first. Hearing that they were looking for Kinming, and seeing their desolate appearance, Sun Buayu moved in his heart, looked at Flender and asked, are you from Shrek Academy? Listen to Teacher Qin, you came to the academy. Let's communicate. Well, take the students out to see the world. It will disturb your courtyard. Flender nodded reservedly, feeling really happy. It seemed that Kinming had already promoted their Shrek properly. Don't disturb. Teacher Qin said that he was taught by all teachers. It's our honor to be able to come to the academy to communicate with all of you. Sun Buayu looked at them with a smile and kept praising him. He really heard Kinming mention Shrek's teacher. It is said that there are 3 soul saints and 2 soul emperors. This kind of teacher strength is already very strong. After being polite, Sun Buayu enthusiastically led Shrek and his party up the mountain, leaving only Zhu Beng and his party, as if he had forgotten them. Looking at the backs of a group of people who were gradually moving away, Zhu Beng's face showed a gleam of resentment, and he gritted his teeth and said, Shrek, wait for me. You don't want to stay here when I'm here, Your Highness. This is not good. Even Teacher Sun dare not neglect them. This group of people may not be easy. A person behind Zhu Beng reminded. What are you afraid of? Even the entire empire belongs to my family. Am I still afraid of them? Zhu Beng said with a gloomy face, and said to a group of younger brothers, go. I will find someone to seek justice first. Today's fight, no matter what you say, I can't forget it. If I don't kick them out of the academy, I won't get rid of the hatred in my heart. Hu Jiu, who was far away, moved his ears. Hearing Zhu Beng's declaration of defeat, his heart calmed down. Immortal grass, getting closer and closer to him. To say that among the people present, he is actually the one who needs immortal grass the most. After all, his innate soul power is only level 2. If it weren't for the blessings from many aspects, let alone level 47, it would be good to have level 20. If he could supplement his cultivation aptitude, I'm afraid that at that time, his cultivation speed would be faster than Qian Rinxu's innate soul power level 20. Moreover, he also wanted to go to the Binghuo Liangai, except for the immortal grass. The Binghuo Liangai itself was the most precious. Generally speaking, according to fantasy novels, there must be something extraordinary in it, and Hu Jiu is very much looking forward to it. Chapter 162. Under the leadership of Mr. Sun Buayu, the group came to the reception of the college. Teachers, wait a moment. I have sent someone to inform Teacher Kinming, and he will come right away. Flender nodded. It's okay, Mr. Sun, let's go. We can just wait for Kinming. After a while, Kinming came in a hurry, and when he saw Flender, he immediately stepped forward and gave a big gift. Get up, you really are so out of touch with us. Flender proudly lifted Kinming up and prevented him from bowing down. Besides, we will follow you in the future, so we are not allowed to salute in the future. Ming touched his forehead embarrassedly. Dean, I have already made arrangements for the college. It's too late today. Tomorrow I will take the teacher to go through the admissions exchange procedures. And by the way, I will meet some leaders of the education committee. Okay, we just came here, and we are not familiar with this place. You can arrange what to do. Flender nodded and smiled. Under the leadership of Kinming, the group came to a residential area. This is for foreigners. Let's stay here for one night. After the formalities are completed, I will arrange your future accommodation. Kinming explained. Flender waved his hand. We don't pay much attention to it. Besides, this place is much better than Ashrek's original residence. The residence Kinming brought them to is not luxurious, but the rooms are clean and tidy, and each has a separate room, not only a bedroom, but also a living room, where all the daily necessities are. It's brand new, and in all aspects, I don't know how much better it is than Shrek. The dinner party was also richer than expected. Although Kinming didn't have time to arrange the best reception dinner in a hurry, he still tried his best to arrange a very good dinner for them. It's a little late today, and the reception is not very good. Everyone will take a look first. When the formalities are completed tomorrow, Kinming will welcome you. Besides, the teachers are here. I'm afraid that the college will also arrange for the reception. Flender waved his hand. Don't be so troublesome. You know it. We don't care much about these. You don't need to bother. Ming was so enthusiastic. Even Flender felt embarrassed. After all, they are really like what Zhu Beng said. They came to the Royal Academy to cheat food and drink. However, they didn't cheat in vain, and they used the name of Academy Exchange at that time. Their teachers will naturally have to make some efforts to teach the students of the Royal Academy, and it is not considered free food. After dinner, they went back to their rooms to rest. After returning to the room, Hu Jiu did not go to bed. As soon as his mind moved, the third spirit ring teleported on, and his body disappeared instantly, appearing in the room next door to Xiao Wu. Ah, Xiao Jiu, why are you here? Xiao Wu was instantly alert. Seeing that it was Hu Jiu, she relaxed again. The Royal Academy is too dangerous. I found that there are several contra-level masters here. Without my cover, I'm afraid they will find out your identity. Hu Jiu said seriously. No, don't worry. Generally, if Douluo doesn't sense it carefully, he won't find out my true body. And in this big night, how can Douluo take care of me? Xiao Wu didn't care said. At the end, he suddenly looked at Hu Jiu suspiciously. You don't have a bad heart again, Xiao Wu is not stupid. It is said that 13 or 14-year-old men are just at the beginning of their ignorance in adolescence. At this time, men are very restless. What are you talking about? How can I have bad intentions against you? I'm worried about your safety. Hu Jiu's face was serious, not embarrassed at all. He waved his hand and said, that's it. Today is settled. I'll sleep with you and help you cover your breath. By the way, are you going to sleep with me again? Xiao Wu blushed and lowered her head shyly. No, if Rang Rang and the others find you staying with me tomorrow, they will laugh at me. Don't worry, they won't find out. Didn't you find out how I appeared just now? Hu Jiu smiled. With the sole skill of teleportation, who would go to the front door? Besides, with the full level 5 sense enhancement technique on his body, even if it is usually not turned on, he can still perceive nearby movements just like now. In his mind, next door Zhu Zuking was sitting cross-legged on the bed, cultivating with his eyes closed. Next door, Ning Rang Rang was wearing a small coat, lying on the bed boringly playing with his fingers, and did not sleep. And the movements of Damu Bei, Tang San, and the others were all within his senses. Then, remember to go back to your room tomorrow. Xiao Wu whispered. Don't worry, I know how to do it. Hu Jiu showed a sly smile on his face. He quickly came to the small dance bed and climbed up. Xiao Jiu, you crossed the line. Hey, don't make trouble. Go to sleep. Silent. All night. The next day, Hu Jiu dressed neatly and walked out of his room with a red face. As soon as they went out, they found that Kinming had come and even made a special trip to ask the college chef to bring them breakfast. Behind him, he happened to meet Tang San, who came back from training outside. Morning, senior. Hu Jiu greeted with a smile. Xiao San, you got up very early too. Kinming said with a smile. This is the breakfast I brought for you. You can eat it first. I'll call the dean and them. Okay, then Xiao San and I will call others. Hu Jiu nodded. Next, several people called the rest of the people up and started to eat breakfast. At the dinner table, Kinming also introduced the personnel structure of the Xiandao Royal Academy. The students of the Royal Academy are divided into 3 levels. The first level is below level 25. Just like Zubeng and others they encountered yesterday. The second level is between the 25th and 30th level. These people are the most numerous in the academy, and they are also the backbone. The third level is Yu Shai and Heng and the others, who are above level 30. The students of this rank are all top level geniuses, and some of them are no less talented than the Shrek 7 Devils. The same goes for teacher grading. The first level teachers are held by spirit masters above 40 levels, and below 50 levels the second rank is held by spirit masters above the 50th rank, and below the 60th rank. The third level is held by spirit masters above level 60. Haha, it seems that my level can also be the lowest teacher in the Royal Academy. Hu Jiu said triumphantly. Dame Bei and the others all rolled their eyes. Xiao Jiu is good. With your current level, you can actually graduate long ago. Well, when this exchange competition is over, I will arrange for you to graduate. Flender stroked his beard, feeling quite accomplished. Although Hu Jiu was not his direct disciple, he was taught by Shrek anyway. With the speed of Hu Jiu's cultivation, I'm afraid that it will take a few years to grow up. At that time, there will be light on his face when he speaks. In the past, didn't his Shrek get such a big name just because he had a Kinming? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 Tang San pretends. Graduate. Hu Jiu glanced at Flender in surprise, shook his head and said, "This is not in a hurry, let's talk about it later." There is no benefit to graduating early. If he graduates, who is he looking for to hunt for spirit rings? Stay in the academy, at least there are free thugs. You old bastard. Xiao Jiu hasn't even reached the age of 14 yet. Why are you so anxious to let people graduate? Xiao Walqi gave Flender a dissatisfied look. When he is 20, he will be promoted to the 6th or 7th level. Why don't we graduate when we can't help? Haha, that's okay. If it's really like what you said, wouldn't we Shrek be famous? Flender laughed. Kinming looked at Hu Jiu in shock. He didn't expect that Hu Jiu was actually a soul sect. He had always thought that among the Shrek students, the oldest Dame Bei was the one with the highest rank. Xiao Jiu is a soul sect? Kinming felt numb. Haha, of course. Otherwise you think these arrogant little guys can listen to him? Xiao Walqi became proud. I haven't introduced it to you yet. Xiao Jiu is my direct disciple, and now he is a 47th level food system soul sect. Food department. Ming ate the steamed buns in his hand silently, feeling that it was no longer fragrant. Food is the most difficult to cultivate among all martial arts. It's no wonder that the dean wanted him to graduate. He remembered that he was able to reach the 40th grade at the youngest age. He graduated with joy, and he is still proud to this day. Now, it seems that I can't be proud. Teacher, don't brag about it. Hurry up and eat. Later, Senior Kinming will take us to go through the exchange procedures. Hu Jiu looked at Xiao Walqi helplessly. Doesn't this penetrate his bottom? After breakfast, under the leadership of Kinming, the group went to the education committee. The board of education is a special position established by the Royal Academy. Because the position of dean has always been held by the contemporary Xiandao emperor, it was equivalent to a vacant post, so an education committee was established under the dean, with 3 spirit Douluo spirit masters serving. If Flender and others want to be exchange teachers in the academy, they need the approval of several education committee leaders. The board of education is at the center of the Royal Academy campus, and is the most luxurious building in the entire Royal Academy. Kinming asked everyone to wait at the door, and he himself went first to report. Xiao Wu, are you sure it's alright? Hu Jiu took Xiao Wu's hand. Her soul power was always covering Xiao Wu, and she asked nervously, "Don't worry, there's no problem. Why are you more nervous than me?" Xiao Wu looked at Hu Jiu with a funny look. He had asked this question many times today. However, seeing Hu Jiu so nervous about her, Xiao Wu felt warm in her heart. She deserved her last night. Okay, I'm too nervous. Hu Jiu touched her nose, and after Xiao Wu's repeated assurances, she finally relaxed. Think about it too. Remember that in the original book, Xiao Wu wasn't discovered either. At that time, Xiao Wu didn't even have level 30. Now that she's at level 38, her ability to hide her aura is stronger. With his soul control skills to help cover it up, it's not a big problem. Kinming came out after a while. There were also 3 old men who came out with him. They should be the 3 education committees of the education committee. Flender also guessed the identities of the 3. Seeing that the 3 spirit Douluo level education committees actually came out to greet them, I immediately felt flattered. But at the same time, I was a little worried. They are so enthusiastic, I'm afraid that they are not interested in these monster students. Flender's worries were not superfluous. Although the 3 education committees warmly received Flender and other teachers, they seemed to be more interested in Shrek's students. Those eyes, when talking with Flender and the others, glanced at the students from time to time. We welcome a few teachers to come to our Royal Academy to communicate. You can rest assured that in our academy, all your needs will be met by the academy. The head of academic affairs Meng Shenji said with a smile. The Chief Dream Machine is very polite. We should have disturbed it. Flender smiled reservedly. Flanders was extremely satisfied that several spirit Douluo who were over 80 levels treated him so politely, and his language was even more polite. Haha, the students taught by Flender are amazing. According to Teacher Qin, your students are not even opponents of the Imperial fighting team. Meng Shenji looked at Damu Bei and the others, and praised the one who defeated the Imperial fighting team back then. Is that them? At this time, the Dream God Machine didn't know that all of Shrek's staff appeared in front of them, and they thought that Damu Bei and the others were the most powerful students from Shrek Academy. It's also luck, these little guys are still a little too tender. Flender's heart stunned. He was afraid that if he continued, these students would not be his in the future. At this moment, Soldao Eluozalin suddenly said, I heard that in your Shrek Academy, there is a very outstanding genius control soul master. Can you let me meet? Also, as a control system soul master, ever since he heard Kinming describe the Shrek team's performance to him, he became interested and wanted to see if the student was as talented as Kinming. Said. Seeing this scene, Hu Jiu moved in his heart. Come, it's time for Tang San to pretend. Although Tang San lacked the 8 spider lances this time, there was a big difference in rank. In the original book, I remembered that it was just over 30. But now it is close to 40. Therefore, this time he can also pretend to succeed. I don't dare to be a genius. I met 3 spirit Douluo masters before Tang San. Tang San immediately stood up when he heard the words and bowed respectfully to the 3 of them. Haha, good. Zha smiled slightly, and the air around his body suddenly twisted. At this moment, Tang San suddenly felt a familiar pressure hit. This is the pressure of spirit power fluctuations. In the past, Hu Jiu often used his own spirit power pressure to bully him because of his higher level. Now that he was suddenly attacked by Zilin Contrap, he quickly reacted. Like nothing happened. He smiled and stood up straight. Zha was startled because he discovered Tang San's true level through spirit pressure. It's actually level 39th. This is already the same level as their most talented student, Yu Xianheng. But Yu Xianheng was now 21 years old, and this Tang San would not be more than 14 years old at most. What a genius this is. It's a pity that he hasn't tested the spirit power levels of Hu Jiu, Damu Bei and the others. Otherwise he might be shocked to the core. Try again. Seeing that Tang San definitely didn't react under the pressure of his spirit power, Zha spirit Douluo became interested. Soon, Zha soul pressure reached level 40, but this level still had little effect on Tang San. This pressure was really trivial to him. After all, Hu Jiu used this trick often. Not only him, but Damu Bei and others were already used to it. Of course, the more calm they were at this time, the more they could reflect how badly they were bullied by Hu Jiu. Chapter 164 The Soul Power Level of the 9 Shrek Monsters. There's something Zilin Sol Douluo appeared calm on the surface, but he was already surprised in his heart point as time passed. The spirit power pressure he exerted on Tang San had reached the 49th rank point. This level of pressure only made Tang San look serious, in a state where he hadn't felt the pressure yet. Attention. ZH reminded, and then his aura suddenly increased, reaching the level of 50. Levels 49th to 50 are a big hurdle, and so is the pressure on spirit power. As soon as the 50 level pressure came out, Tang San frowned, finally feeling the pressure point. As soon as his mind moved, the Zuanshan art in his body began to operate, and the internal force covered his entire body, and he began to resist the pressure of the soul power that came upon him. Accompanied by Zuanshan Gong's urging, a puff of white smoke appeared from Tang San's body, which was the performance of Zuanshan Gong's extreme operation point. And for some unknown reason, when he was running the Zuanshan Gong to the limit, there was a scent of herbs accompanying him, but at this time he was resisting the pressure of the increasingly strong soul power, and he didn't have time to think about other things. In fact, it was the fusion of his martial soul blue silver grass characteristics and the internal power of Zuanshan Gong. Blue silver grass has the characteristics of tenacity and perseverance, and now facing the pressure of ZH and Sol Douluo's soul power, it finally combines with Zuanshan Gong's internal power. After the combination, Zuanshan Gong's inner strength also became tough and durable. But now Tang San couldn't care less, because ZH spirit Douluo's spirit pressure had risen to level 55. At this level, beads of sweat appeared on Tang San's face. The next moment, he couldn't hold on any longer. The blue silver grass spirit in his right hand automatically appeared, and the thick blue silver grass formed a cage beside him. The grass undulated and swayed like waves, automatically starting to disperse Tang San's pressure. At this time, Tang San only felt the pressure on his body lighten, and he felt that he was okay again. He looked at Zilin Sol Douluo with piercing eyes, his eyes full of confidence. Come again. ZH and Sol Douluo couldn't stand Tang San's provocative little look, so he immediately raised the pressure of his soul power by another level. If one wasn't enough, then another 46th level soul pressure, 47th level soul pressure, until the 48th level soul pressure. Tang San's face flushed, and his body began to tremble. Boom. The soul pressure has reached the 49th level. Tang San only felt a crisp cracking sound from inside his body, his spirit power level finally breaking through. From the 39th level to the 40th level. Sure enough, he is the protagonist of destiny. This can raise the level of spirit power. Hu Jiu narrowed his eyes and looked at Tang San with envy. He had never encountered such an opportunity before, which upgrade is not step by step, through the accumulation of soul power bit by bit. With his second level innate soul power aptitude, every major breakthrough has an unbreakable bottleneck. If it weren't for the experience accumulation of the on-hook panel, which helped him ignore the bottleneck and breakthrough, he would not be today. Envious. Okay, Zilin Education Commission, the test is over here. The child has just broken through. Let him stabilize his spirit power. Chief Ming Shenji waved his hand to stop Zilin Sol Douluo, who wanted to continue exerting pressure on his spirit power. Turning his head, Ming Shenji looked at Flender with bright eyes. This child is so talented. He took this opportunity to break through the bottleneck. Congratulations to Dean Flender. Haha, I have to thank Zilin Spirit Douluo for being perfect. If it wasn't for his guidance, this kid wouldn't have been able to break through so easily. Flender looked at Tang San, who was adjusting his spirit power in surprise, and answered modestly. But looking at the way his beard is about to curl up, how can he look modest? He is proud. First, Damu Bei had broken through the 40th rank, and now Tang San had broken through again, and with Hu Jiu, who had broken through the spirit sect early, among his students, there were now 340 rank spirit masters. Dean Flender is modest, and I didn't do anything to help. It's because this child is talented, and the dean teaches well. Zilin Sol Douluo waved his hand humbly. Help or not, he knows it himself. It's just a little spirit power stress test. Tang San and other breakthroughs are entirely up to him. At this time, Bebe Ocean Sol Douluo, who had always looked like a Maitreya Buddha, had a kind smile on his face, and said with a smile, President Flender, these students are amazing. I wonder if I can know the souls of other students. Strength level, in Fact, Baby Ocean had been observing Shrek's students for a long time. At his soul Douluo level, although he didn't use his soul power to test him, he could see everything with his eyes alone. Through observation, he found that these students are all imposing, full of energy and roundness, and they are not weak at first glance. This result made Baby Ocean even more want to know the true level of these students. Looking at Baby Ocean's expectant and curious eyes, Flender hesitated. What if he found out that his disciples were all geniuses later? Haha, what's the inconvenience of this? Guys, let's show your spirit rings. Let Baby Ocean Spirit Douluo see your level. Hu Jiu took the conversation carelessly. Things have come to this point. The old ghost Flender can't hide it, even if he wants to, and he will live on other people's territory in the future. Even if he can hide it for a while, can he hide it for a lifetime? It's better to just let these old guys see how talented these students are. Maybe there will be more resources to cultivate at that time. As soon as Zhao spoke, he focused the eyes of the three contras of the education committee. They also wanted to see how good Zhao could make students so confident. Cough, then show it. At this time, Flender also figured it out and cleared his throat. Shrek and the others looked at each other and showed their martial spirits one after another. For a time, the entire room was filled with gorgeous and dazzling light. Hu Jiu, martial soul carrot, level 47 food type auxiliary soul sect. Damu Bay, martial soul white tiger, 40 level attack type battle soul venerable. Zio Wu, martial soul soft bone charming rabbit, 38th level agility attack type battle soul venerable. Mahanjan, martial spirit phoenix, 33rd level assault type battle spirit venerable. Oscar, martial soul sausage, level 33 food type auxiliary soul venerable. Zhu Zuking, the spirit cat of the Netherworld, is a 32 agility attack type battle spirit venerable. Ning Rangrong, martial spirit 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda, 30th level assistant spirit master Meng. Yiren, martial soul snake staff, 32 battle soul venerable. Tang San, martial soul blue silver grass, 40 level control type battle soul venerable. Finally, Tang San also stood up and came to Shrek's side, reporting his martial spirit level. As they reported their martial spirit levels one by one, the light in the eyes of the three Spirit Douluo teaching committees of the Royal Academy became brighter and brighter, especially Hu Jiu, a level 47 food type soul sect, simply subverted their imagination. With their eyes, the age of Hu Jiu and others can be seen at a glance. And all of them are the best spirit ring configuration. Hu Jiu is a Huang and Erzi. The others were not bad. Except for Ning Rangrong, who had not yet hunted for spirit rings, who had 2 yellow and 2 spirit rings. The others were all 2 yellow and 1 purple. At this age, being able to raise the spirit power to this level, it can be said that every one of them can beat the best students of their Royal Academy. Chapter 165, The Mind of the Dream Machine. President Flender, these are all talented students. Ming Shenji's eyes flashed a gleam, and he said excitedly, I have an unkind request. I don't know if I should say it or not. Don't say it, don't say it. Flender screamed wildly in his heart, but in the face of the little old men who were a level higher than him, he only dared to cry out. Seeing that Flender didn't speak, Meng Shenji didn't care whether he wanted to or not. He said to himself, these students are all very talented. No, it can be said that there is no academy other than Wuhan Academy better than them. As far as I know, Dean Flender's Shrek Academy doesn't seem to be a high-level academy. Of course, this old man didn't mean to belittle it, mainly for the prosperous world a year later. Your students are so talented, they should have. There is a bright light in the elite competition of senior colleges across the continent. It would be a pity to miss this prosperous world. I think that since Dean Flender can teach such a powerful student, he shouldn't be some kind of selfish person. Meng Shenji understands reason and moves with emotion, and the meaning behind the words is to want Shrek students to participate in the prosperous world next year. It just so happened that there were 2 teams in their Royal Academy. If the Shrek team participated in the competition, it was not to say whether they would become champions, but it was certain that they would shine. Flender fell into silence. If he had just heard this, he would definitely object to it. But since he came to Heaven Dao City, for some reason, his mind has changed a bit. And what Dream God Machine Spirit Douluo said was right. Although these students of his did not ask to participate in this competition, but with his understanding of everyone, how could he not see their thoughts? Shrek's 9 monsters, which one is not an amazing talent, and which one is not a arrogant master, in the face of this elite soul master competition sweeping the whole continent? How can you not yearn for it, and don't want to shine your own light, Lord? Soul Douluo, we all understand what you mean, but this matter is too big. Can we allow Ardeen to go back and think about it? Anyway, there will be a lot of time in the future, so it's better to come to Japan for a long time. While Flender was still hesitating, Hu Jiu came to his side and smiled and said to the 3 Spirit Douluo education committees, it's not that he wants to meddle in his own business, but in his perception, a very powerful and obscure aura is coming here. The breath was full of domineering and sinister. Needless to say, the only person who can have such a huge aura is the poisoned Douluo, who has never seen it before. At this time, of course, there is no need to continue to entangle with Ming Shenji and the others. Anyway, they will leave later, but the way of leaving will be a little embarrassing. This point, Hu Jiu didn't want to change. Everything was for the fairy grass. The big deal is that they will become stronger in the future. Just clean up all those who offend them. Moreover, he has many plans in the future, one of which is inseparable from the Xiandao royal family. When the time comes, the account will be calculated slowly. Well, Xiao Jiu is right. Everyone Spirit Douluo Education Committee, I need to discuss this matter with everyone. Can you give us a little time? Hu Jiu's words shocked Flender. He glanced at him admiringly, and Flender raised his head and said, haha, no problem. It was me who was abrupt. Let's talk about this later. Later. Meng Shenji laughed heartily. He found that he seemed to be in a hurry. Shrek had already come here anyway, and he would continue to stay here in the future. There was a chance to convince them that there was no need to rush for a while. While everyone was chatting about the joyous occasion, a very energetic voice came from outside the door. It's the Chief Dream Machine here. At the same time as the sound came, 2 footsteps had already sounded outside. Obviously, the person who came here did not take Meng Shenji and others seriously at all, and came in without waiting for the notification. At this time, Hu Jiu dragged Xiao Wu and quietly retreated behind the Shrek crowd, and even used his body to block Xiao Wu tightly. The people around him gave Hu Jiu a strange look, not understanding what he was doing. Ming Shenji frowned unhappily when he heard this voice. Looking up, 3 figures were walking in from the front of the education committee's gate. An old man with a chubby figure in a fancy dress strode ahead, and beside him, Zhu Beng walked in with a look of hatred. Beside the two, a tall and thin old man with green hair drifted in like a ghost. The reason for drifting is that although his feet appear to be standing on the ground, they are not moving. Seeing this person, a dignified color flashed in Meng Shenji's eyes. This man, he can't see through. Not only Meng Shenji, but Bilin and Bebe Ocean next to him also focused their attention on this person, and they didn't see the strength of this person. People who can't see through their level can't help but ignore them. Prince, why are you here? Looking at the 3 people who had come to the front, Meng Shenji stood up, bowed and saluted. Zhu Beng leaned over to the old man in Huafu, and glanced at everyone in Shrek with resentment on his face, especially when he saw Dame Yubei. He wanted to eat him even more. Uncle, it's them. Oh. The old man in Huafu, who is also Prince Zhu Crossing, glanced at everyone in Shrek, turned back and asked Ming Shenji, the 3 education committees have guests here, why don't you introduce me to this king? Hearing this, Ming Shenji's eyes flashed a trace of dissatisfaction, and then he returned to indifference, stretched out his hand to lead Shrek, and introduced. They are from Shrek Academy, come to our Royal Academy to communicate for a while. I will come for you. Introduce. This is no need. Prince Zhu Crossing waved his hand impatiently. I've never heard of Shrek Academy. Ming Shenji Education Committee. We are the Royal Academy and represent the Heaven Dao Empire. You can't go to everyone. Bring it in the academy. Exchange. Do they have this qualification? These Words were extremely rude. Those contemptuous little eyes made Flender, Zhao Wuji and the others clench their fists. Even Hu Jiu took a deep look at this Prince Zhu crossing. No matter what, he remembered these people today, and he will clean up together in the future. Point. If you dare to say this to them, don't you know that he has always been very small at heart, Master Prince? Meng Shenji looked at Prince Zhu crossing angrily, and his tone became serious. You don't know that Shrek's reputation is normal. After all, you are busy with business, so how can you pay attention to this? Let's put it this way, Kin Teacher Ming came from Shrek. Do you still think Shrek Academy doesn't have this qualification? Oh. Prince Zhu crossing was surprised, but in fact, before he came, Shrek's details had already been investigated by him. It was because he was clear that he couldn't let people like Shrek stay smoothly. Who told Meng Shenji that these people were his eldest nephew. Chapter 166. Chief Meng Shenji, since teacher Qin Ming also graduated from Shrek Academy, then I'll save face and ignore the fact that Zhu Beng was beaten by them. But there is no shortage of assessments, and I want to enter our Shrek Academy to communicate. Let's wait until we pass the test, Prince. Zhu crossing waved his hand and said generously. Meng Shenji had an angry expression on his face when he heard the words, but thinking that Zhu crossing was the direct leader sent by the Xiandao imperial family and had the right to appoint personnel, Meng Shenji took a deep breath and said indifferently, no need for assessment. All Shrek teachers have the strength of Heavendao level teachers, and as exchange teachers, they are more than enough. Prince Zhu crossing, are you here for this matter? The so-called Xiandao level teacher is the highest level teacher of the Royal Academy. Prince Zhu crossing snorted coldly. The Royal Academy represents the Heavendao royal family, and the rules are the rules. How can you say that there is no assessment if you don't have an assessment? Chief Meng Shenji, I think you are old and have a bad memory. Even a member of the Royal Academy. Forget the rules. What does Prince Zhu crossing mean? Meng Shenji was expressionless. At this time, he had already seen that Prince Zhu crossing was here to look for trouble. It's very simple. Since you said that they are all talents, then the Mr. Douluo behind me will test it for you personally. As long as you can hold on to him for 5 minutes, I will agree with them to communicate. Prince Zhu crossing returned to Maitreya Buddha's appearance and said with a smile, however, if you can't hold on, then ask them to get out of the Royal Academy. You. At this moment, Damu Bei couldn't hold it any longer and rushed out with a stride. Boom. At this moment, Douluo, who had been standing behind Prince Zhu crossing, opened his eyes. A ray of light shot out from his eyes, and Damu Bei's figure that had just rushed up was instantly blasted out. Fortunately, Tang San shot in time and sent out his hand to control the crane and capture the dragon, catching Damu Bei safely. Damu Bei sighed heavily. His eyes filled with deep fear, and his body trembled slightly. Just being glanced at by Douluo, he was frightened. His Royal Highness, don't go too far. Meng Shenji roared loudly. What? If I go too far? Prince Zhu crossing smiled coldly, looked at him disdainfully and said, don't forget, I'm the direct leader of the Royal Academy, with the power to appoint and remove personnel. If you are not convinced, you can complain to your majesty, but until his majesty dismisses me, I have the final say here. You. Meng Shenji was so angry that her body trembled, and she was speechless for a long time. Prince Zhu crossing didn't care about him, but turned his head and respectfully said to Douluo, trouble Mr. Douluo. Bo looked at the Shrek people lightly and said, if you want to prove your ability, then speak with your strength, and let's go together. Just after he finished speaking, Douluo's momentum increased, and the entire hall began to shake under his influence. 2 yellow, 2 purple, 5 black, a total of 9 spirit rings slowly rhythm underfoot. Those who were most affected were the Shrek people who faced them head on. Fortunately, when Damu Bei flew out, a group of teachers such as Flender and Zhao Wuji stood at the front, protecting Shrek and his group of students behind them. Otherwise this momentum alone would be enough to crush them. Hu Jiu's expression changed at the back, tightly holding Zhao Wu's hand, mobilizing the whole body's soul power, controlling the release of soul skills, suppressing Zhao Wu's breath that was about to be hidden. Zhao Wu was frightened. Originally, she was confident that she could hide in front of title Douluo below level 95, but when she saw the real person, she couldn't help but feel scared. Because of this, even her own aura was not stable. Fortunately, Hu Jiu was there, holding Hu Jiu's hand. Xiao would quickly calm down, and her aura began to stabilize. Ahead, Flanders and the others were not feeling well, facing a strong title Douluo. Even if they had soul power at the level of Soul Saint and Soul Emperor, Flend looked at Douluo with difficulty and saluted respectfully. Your surname is Douluo again. And you are also a title Douluo. Could it be that your majesty is senior poison Douluo? Haha, I still have some eyesight, but I actually know the old man's name. Douluo laughed wildly. Since you know who I am, don't hurry up, or you won't be able to leave later. Okay, let's get out of here. Flender clenched his fists and pinched his fingernails into the flesh, but his face was respectful. Facing a title Douluo, he had to be respectful, even if not for himself, but also for the group of students behind him. 3. Education committees. Turning his head, Flender said apologetically to them, I'm sorry, but I would like to thank the 3 education committees for their warm hospitality. There will be a future. After saying this, Flender winked at the Shrek crowd, took the lead and turned away. Wait a minute. The voice of the dream god machine came from behind. It's a pity that Flender is a thief. In the scene just now, he could already see the incompatibility between Prince Zhu Crossing and Meng Shenji. And there is also a famous poison Douluo. What are you waiting for? Are you courting death? Therefore, Flender didn't stop, as if he didn't hear it, but quickened his pace and left. As soon as they came to the door, they happened to encounter Du Guyan running towards them. It's you. Du Guyan's expression changed when he saw Shrek and his party, especially when he saw Tang San in the crowd. He showed a strange look. Grandpa, I'm here to see you. Don't care about anything else. Du Guyan quickly ran to Douluo, threw himself into his arms, and whispered a few words in his ear. Douluo thoughtfully looked at Tang San's leaving back, lightly patted Du Guyan's head a few times, a look of interest on his face, stable, perceiving this scene. Hu Jiu said secretly, it's too dangerous. I don't think I can be so reckless next time. This time, Hu Jiu had a real insight into the power of title Douluo. Facing that invisible pressure, he finally put away his pride. However, the road is still long. Douluo, right, you wait for me. We have settled this beam. Revenge starts with stripping off the fairy grass. Before leaving the Royal Academy, Kinming chased after him. It seems that he also bid farewell to Meng Shenji and others, and decided to leave Xiandao Royal Academy with them. After leaving the Royal Academy, everyone was silent all the way. For a long time, Flender sighed and said to Kinming, Kinming, why are you so troublesome? This matter is obviously a struggle within their royal family. It just happened to be the right time. Teacher, it's all my fault. Kinming plopped down and knelt down directly. If it wasn't for my proposal to let the juniors come here, the teacher wouldn't be insulted. All of this is mine. Wrong. You kid, get up quickly. What nonsense are you talking about? Zhao Walqi stepped forward and pulled him up. Old Flanders is right. This is their royal struggle. It has nothing to do with you, and you're here to help us too. It's not your fault, President. Why don't we make Shrek bigger? Damu Bei said suddenly. Chapter 167. Going to Lanba Academy. For a long time, Dean, you have been reluctant to accept my family's financial support. I can understand it, but it is different now. With the 9th brother and the 3rd one here, our Shrek team is invincible and can definitely make a lot of money, etc. With money, we Shrek can also have our own mimetic cultivation environment, so we don't have to rely on others. Being glanced at by Lonely Bow, Damu Bei's mind was almost destroyed, and he was still terrified when he thought about it now. Today, he doesn't want to encounter this situation again. Boss, Day is right. What is the Heaven Dao Royal Academy? Even the most powerful Royal Dao team has been defeated by us, and our Shrek team will definitely sweep the major battlefields and make a lot of money. Ma. Hangjun said excitedly. The other Shrek students also cheered up a little. The feeling of being kicked out was really uncomfortable. Let me think about this matter. Let's find a place to stay and then talk about it. Flender was a little moved, but this matter has to be thought about. After all, these students are now in the stage of rapidly improving their strength. How can they delay them? Moreover, this place in Heavendale City, President, why don't you all come to my house? The 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School is not far from Heavendale City. My father will definitely not neglect the teachers like this Royal Academy. Ning Rang Grang invited, no need. Let's go to Heavendale City to find a place to settle down first. Flender waved his hand and instantly made a decision. He decided to meet Liu Erlang first. Since he found out that the master was no longer the master he knew before, Flender had new ideas for Liu Erlang. In the past, he also planned to make Liu Erlang and the master finally married, but now that he thinks about it, the master may not be the best destination for Liu Erlang. The best destination should be him. And with this incident happening today, it is just right to find his second sister. Thinking of this, Flender's heart began to heat up after a long absence. Now that Flender had made a decision, a group of people would of course not go against it. Under his leadership, they arrived at the gate of Heavendale City in no time. Before entering the city, Hu Jiu had already anticipated it. He pointed to the sign beside the city gate and said, "Look at the dean. This Lanba Advanced Spirit Master Academy is very rich, and all the advertisements are coming to the city gate. Lanba Advanced Spirit Master Academy." Flender was shocked and hurriedly looked in the direction Hu Jiu pointed. I saw on the notice board that it said, "Recruitment. Lanba Advanced Spirit Master Academy, due to its own expansion reasons, is now looking for the following personnel. 10 spirit sects above the 40th rank. Those with high spirit power are preferred, and once hired, they will be treated favorably." Hey, this is good. This is good. Let's go. I'll take you to a good place. Flender looked at the notice happily and laughed happily. The dean's laughter is so scary. This expression seems like Mahanjan shrank his neck and hesitated to say it. Haha, what is it like? Is it the expression of seeing an old lover? Zhao Waoqi said with a wink. Zhao Hangsheng, do you have itchy skin? It just happens that your hands are itchy for the past 2 days. Do you want us to practice? Flender said angrily. Isn't it just one level higher than me? Wait, when I'm the same level as you, let's see who will take care of who. Zhao Wuji shrank his neck and whispered, Leo Fu, are you going to take us to this Lanba Advanced Spirit Master Academy? Xiao Zin Xiao followed Flender and asked him. Yes. Flender nodded, then glared at Zhao Wuji sternly, and then explained, this Lanba Advanced Spirit Master Academy has a good friend of mine. Since I'm here, why should I pay a visit? Otherwise, it would be too rude. Oh, it turns out that I really went to meet my old lover. I understand. Xiao Zin Xiao nodded, looking like he understood. Old Xiao, you are not a good thing. Flender laughed and scolded. Haha. Seeing Flender's bickering, everyone's mood instantly improved. Even Dame Yubei, who was frightened by Dugubo, showed a smile. This Lanba Academy is said to only recruit civilian students, not nobles. This is exactly the opposite of Xiandao Royal Academy. As for the specific background, I don't know. Kinming looked at the announcement and said, oh, there is such an academy. This rule is very tasteful. Zhao Waoqi grinned. Don't, teacher, be careful that misfortunes come out of your mouth. You didn't see what was on the mind of the director of the middle school just now. Do you really want to practice with the director? Hu Jiu heard the words and hurriedly persuaded him, for fear that Zhao Wuji would say something else. Amazing words. Oh, I understand. Zhao Waoqi suddenly realized, and said to Flender hurriedly and apologetically, Mr. Frederick, don't forget to take care of yourself. I have no other intentions. Go away. I think both of you master and apprentice are itchy. When we settle down, let's see how I deal with you. Flender said angrily. But I don't know why. Being teased like this makes me happy, and it's strange. Let's go. Isn't this Lanba Academy looking to recruit teachers? It just so happens that some of our old guys are eligible. Let's apply. Flender waved his hand and said proudly, Boss Fu, you don't want Shrek anymore? As soon as these words came out, Zhao Wuji was shocked. Just kidding. But they never thought of actually joining other students. Hey, Leo Zhao, I figured it out too. Our old fellows are not too young so it's time to do our own thing. Besides, I think this Lanba Academy is pretty good. Since they are high-level Soul Master Academies, then there must be places in the Continental Soul Master Elite competition. Even if it is not for us, it should be considered for a few students. Their talents shouldn't be buried. Elite competitions are also a prosperous world, and they should show their brilliance. Don't you want them to bring down the Royal Academy? We should also show this tone. Rand said lightly. A group of teachers suddenly stopped talking for the sake of the students. It doesn't matter to them, but they can't delay the future of the students. Dean Flender's remarks moved Damu Bay and the others so much that they almost burst into tears. It turned out that the dean did everything for them. Okay, don't talk nonsense. Come with me. You'll know when you get there. Flender waved his hand, interrupting what they wanted to say, and took the lead in striding towards Lanba Academy. Lanba Academy was easy to find, and it didn't take long for them to reach their destination point. The Lanba Academy deserved to have a domineering reputation. The gate of the academy alone was more than 10 meters high. At this scale, it was already as high as the gate of Shandao City Point. As soon as they arrived at the gate of the academy, they saw a place next to the gate that said the application reception room. There is no need to ask for directions now. Everyone walks directly there. Chapter 168 Examination. Are you here to apply? In the application room at the entrance of Lanba Academy, a middle-aged teacher in his 30s and 40s received Shrek and his party. No, a few of us came to apply for the job. These little guys are our students. Flender pointed to himself, Zhao Wuji and the others, and then pointed to the Shrek 9 eccentrics. Oh, the teachers applying for the job need to pass the test. Come with me first. I'll take you to the test place, the middle-aged teacher said, and then led them to the Lanba Academy. On the way, he gave a general introduction to the environment of Lanba Academy, among which, having a mimetic cultivation environment attracted everyone's attention. Teacher, are you saying that there is a mimetic cultivation environment in the academy? Damube asked excitedly. Of course, Lanba Soul Master Academy is a high-level academy, and an important indicator of an advanced Soul Master Academy is to have a mimetic cultivation environment. The teacher introduced with a proud face. So powerful? How much can the academy's mimetic training environment improve the training speed? Everyone in Shrek looked at the teacher with fiery eyes. Haha, it can increase the training speed by 10%. The teacher laughed. Oh, it's very good. When Shrek and his party heard this, their excited heart instantly cooled down and became calm. In fact, they want to say, this is it. I thought it could improve by how much, but it turned out to be a 10% increase. Compared with Hu Jiu's cultivation carrot, it was almost as good as nothing. Under the leadership of this teacher, they came to the place where their strength was tested. The teacher left for a while, and then 3 teachers came out soon after. The first teacher in his 40s asked first, are you the teachers participating in the application assessment? Please come one by one. Which one will come to the test first? Flender looked at Kinming and waved to him. Xiaoming, come first. Ming stood up. Excuse me, how should I test? It's very simple. First release the martial arts, as long as the strength is over 40 rank, and it can last 10 minutes in the hands of one of the 3 of us. It is considered qualified. Okay. Kinming readily agreed, and instantly released his martial spirit. Kinming's martial spirit is a fiery blue wolf. At the moment, when his martial spirit was possessed, a burst of fire appeared from his body, and he let out a low roar. Kinming's body instantly became taller, his eyes turned crimson, and a pair of sharp claws on his hands, stretching out. Bursts of flames covered it, and everyone only felt an overwhelming heat wave hit under his feet. Ahang, Urzi, Ahi, 6 spirit rings slowly rhythm, setting off Kinming's extraordinary might. Kinming. Martial Soul Fire Blue Wolf, 62 Storm type Battle Soul Emperor. Kinming said in a deep voice. 62. The 3 assessment teachers took 2 steps back in an instant. They were frightened by Kinming's strength. With such strength, let's talk about it earlier, and it's a shitty assessment. With their Soul King level strength, how should they be assessed? Who? Are you fighting with me? Kinming raised his right hand and made an inviting gesture. 3 teachers. No. Need. Your strength far exceeds ours, and the academy has regulations that, as long as the strength reaches the 60th level, other exams can be exempted. Since you can be exempted from the test if you reach level 60, then we don't need to waste time. Brothers, open the spirit ring. Flender said. All of Shrek's teachers showed smiles on their faces. All of them turned on their martial arts, and for a time, the entire hall was covered by the dazzling light of the spirit rings. Flander Martial Spirit Owl, 78th level agility type battle. Spirit Saint, Zao. Walkie, Martial Spirit Powerful King Kong Bear, 77th level assault type battle. Spirit Saint, Shao. Xin Shao, Martial Soul Jelly Bean, level 71 food system auxiliary Soul Saint, Lu. Kibin, Wuhan Zingluoki, 66th level control system battle Soul Emperor, Li. Yusang, Martial Spirit Dragon Cudgel, level 63 Storm Emperor Battle Spirit, from strong to weak. The 5 Shrek teachers reported their names and grades respectively. The 3 assessment teachers were sluggish at this time. They never expected that so many powerful spirit masters would suddenly appear today to apply for the job. And these people are obviously together. Are they here to split Lanba Academy? There are so many strong soul masters, and there are 3 big men of the soul saint level among them. In the entire Lanba Academy, only their dean is the soul saint, and he is only at the 75th level. It seems that these people are not good. Is it alright? Flender stood proudly, exuding a majestic aura that only soul saints have. It's alright. It's alright, seniors. Please accept the martial spirit. The 3 teachers stammered. The leading spirit master bowed his head, looked at Flender respectfully and said, seniors, in Shu, the 54th level assault type battle spirit master, we can't evaluate your level. Do you think this is good? Well, I'll take you to see the dean. Only she can decide this matter. Let's go then. A smile appeared on Flender's face. Finally, he was going to see the person he missed, and he appeared in front of her in such a surprising way. Please. Teacher Yinshu made a gesture of invitation respectfully. Wait. At this moment, Hu Jiu suddenly said. After attracting everyone's attention, he looked at Flender with a smile and said, Dean, you can see that my grade is not bad, or I will also take an assessment. How about being a teacher in the academy? No. Before Flender could answer, Xiao Wu immediately covered his mouth and said dissatisfiedly, what are you doing as a teacher? Do you want to ride on our heads? Yeah, brother ninth. This is not good. You are betraying the organization. Oscar exclaimed. Zhao Walqi was also speechless. Xiao Jiu, what do you want to do? You haven't even finished your studies, and you still want to be a teacher. Isn't this a misunderstanding? But their recruitment conditions only require strength and rank. My rank and strength have already met the requirements. Hu Jiu said innocently. To be honest, he was really interested in being a teacher, especially being the teacher of Xiao Wu and others. It feels even more interesting. Go away. Be an honest student for me. Xiao Walqi made a gesture to Hu Jiu, and only then did he subdue him. Beside Yinshu and other 3 teachers stared wide. What kind of monsters are these people? Even if the teacher is strong, even the students are so strong. Judging from the appearance of Hu Jiu, he is only 13 or 14 years old. The sage is over 40. What is this monster? After the shock, they were a little overjoyed. Obviously, if these teachers really joined their Lanba Academy after a while, wouldn't this student also join in? This kind of genius, their Lanba Academy will not refuse. Soon, under the leadership of Yinshu, the Shrek group walked towards the rear of the academy. Gradually, they came to a quiet deep forest. Chapter 169 New Shrek. Shrek and his party followed the 3 Lanba Academy teachers and walked for about 10 minutes on the mountain behind the academy. At this time, a euphemistic singing voice came, as if an infatuated and resentful woman was talking. Hearing the song, Flender's footsteps began to slow down, and his originally excited mood seemed to be affected, and he became a little silent. Walking hundreds of meters forward, the sight gradually opened up. There was a small lake, a simple thatched hut. There were many flowers around the hut, and a woman was watering with a kettle. After realizing that someone came to disturb him, He frowned slightly and looked over impatiently. This woman looks to be in her 30s, and it is the moment when a woman is attractive, with delicate facial features, picturesque eyebrows, and the unconcealed peaks, turbulent, mature and plump demeanor. Which is definitely not something ordinary girls can do. Reachable point even if ZHU's Yuking, this little cat, was a little immature compared to her. That was the charm of a mature woman. This person is Liu Erlong, president. These are several teachers who came to apply for the job. Their spirit power levels are all over 60. We can't make a decision. We have come here to ask you to make a decision. Yenshu led the crowd to Liu Erlong said respectfully. At this time, Liu Erlong's eyes were already focused on Flender, who was following the three teachers of Yenshu. His expression was excited, and there was an unspeakable emotion in his eyes. It's not that Liu Erlong has no feelings for Flender, but because of the master, she hid this feeling. After all, among the two men, she chose the master herself, although it didn't end well. Boss Fu, you are really surprising me. Liu Erlong's lips parted slightly, and his face revealed a light of surprise. Haha, Erlong me, I didn't expect that after so many years. Your demeanor hasn't changed at all. Let me introduce to you. These are my Shrek teachers and students. From now on, we will come to you. I'm asking for a living. Flender looked at Liu Erlong with excitement. He didn't know how to speak for a while, and finally clumsily pulled Shrek and his party as a shield. This is Liu Erlong, my second sister. Let's get to know each other. Under Flender's introduction, Shrek and his party began to get to know each other. At this time, everyone realized that the dean actually knew the dean of Lanba Academy, and they had an extraordinary relationship. Of course, Hu Jiu, an insider, doesn't count. Boss Fu, what's the matter? When did you come to me to seek a life? After getting to know each other, Liu Erlong remembered what Flender had just said. Hey, if someone else asked, Flender would definitely not say it, but in the face of Liu Erlong, he didn't hide anything, and honestly told what happened. Hearing that they were actually kicked out by the Royal Academy, Liu Erlong's eyes flashed with a strong suffocation. What a Xiandao Royal Academy, how dare you bully my boss? This is not over. Liu Erlong's anger, his suffocating appearance, scared Shrek and his party. They didn't expect that Liu Erlong, who had a gentle and peaceful appearance just now, would have such a big temper. The evil spirit on his body was even bigger than that of Zhao Walqi. Don't worry, Mr. Fu, isn't my place yours? In this case, I have the final say in Lanba Academy. In the future, if everyone stays here, this place is yours. Liu Erlong waved his hand. Said loudly. Seeing Liu Erlong, Flender's usual shrewdness was gone. At this time, he was still joking. Our treatment requirements are very high. Can you bear it, Liu? Erlong pursed his lips and smiled. Boss Fu, it's not whether I can bear it. You should ask if you can bear it. I announce that Lanba Academy will be changed to Shrek Academy in the future. This academy was originally opened by me. After so many years, I'm tired too. You are the boss, and this academy will be yours from now on. Flender stared blankly at Liu Erlong. He didn't expect that his Erlong sister would be so arrogant. An academy would give it. If he told her, Mr. Yenshu, you can arrange a teacher-student meeting tomorrow. Later, Lanba Academy will be renamed Shrek Academy. Without giving Flender a chance to refuse, Liu Erlong cut through the mess and settled the matter directly. Yes, Dean. The three teachers of Yenshu were already sluggish at this time. Sure enough, his guess was correct. This group of people could not only split Lanba Academy, but even directly took it away. Liu Erlong looked at the Shrek people and said to them, everyone is here. Let me introduce you to our Lanba Academy. No, it should be called Shrek Academy now. This forest is the largest in Heavendao City, and all of it belongs to the Academy's resources. Although our facilities here are not as good as those of the Heavendao Royal Academy, they are not too bad. 10 years have passed since the establishment of the Academy. Because we only accept civilian spirit masters, the quality of spirit masters themselves is inferior to that of ordinary advanced spirit master academies. But it is precisely because our students are from civilians, they have to train harder than those from big families or nobles. In the last Spirit Master competition, we overcame many powerful enemies and finally made it to the top 8. The result is only better than that of the Heavendao Royal Academy. The first team was slightly worse. Their second team was eliminated by us. As for the future, it's up to Dean Fu's arrangement. Well, that's it for the introduction. Let's go. I'll treat you today to welcome everyone. Liu. Erlang's small mouth crackled, and Flender became the dean of the academy in a daze, but he didn't even have a chance to refuse point in the end. Flender also wanted to understand that this was Liu Erlang's intention. He, the Erlang sister, has always been like this. Once he makes a decision, he immediately executes it decisively, without giving anyone a chance to refute point. Because of the reason that the master was personally driven away by him, it was rare for Flender to be clever, and in his conversation with Liu Erlang, he didn't mention the master at all. Point without the Grandmaster's intervention, Liu Erlang was rarely happy during the reception. He was also very enthusiastic about the Shrek 9 Devils, and when she knew the level of Hu Jiu and others, she was even more happy to slap the table. Haha, alright, with you here, I can rest assured. I want to see what's so great about their Heavendao Royal Academy. In next year's Spirit Master competition, you give me a hard fight, and I meet the Royal Academy. Don't keep the players, call me until they retire. How cruel. When the Shrek 9 Devils heard such remarks, they nodded hurriedly, for fear that the beautiful former dean would trouble them. But at the same time, there was a burst of excitement in my heart. Finally, they could finally take revenge. Heavendao Royal Academy. Wait. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170. Tang San is captured. After the reception was over, Liu Erlang arranged accommodation for everyone in Shrek. With the relationship of Flanders, of course they received the highest standard of treatment, each with a small courtyard, and all the facilities in the bedroom and living room. Of course, they were very happy to see such an accommodation environment, and they all chose their favorite accommodation one by one. Only Hu Jiu, his focus is no longer in this area. He knew that after a while, Douluo was coming. Just wait for him to take Tang San away and follow him quietly, and immortal grass will be in his hands. But there are risks involved. Tracking a titled Douluo is not so easy. A little carelessness might be discovered. But relying on the full level soul skill 5 sense enhancement technique, Hu Jiu also has a lot of confidence. Currently, his perception range can reach as far as 5 miles away. If you go further, the chance of being discovered is not very high. The biggest problem is that, after arriving at the destination, if you enter the eyes of ice and fire under the eyes of Douluo, this is the most important point. Maybe, when it really doesn't work, you can wait until Flender arrives. Just when Hu Jiu was thinking about the plan for the meeting, he suddenly found a domineering and sinister aura in his perception. Come on. Hu Jiu stood up abruptly, his eyes flashing a gleam. After entering Lanba Academy, this breath began to wander around, and it seemed that he was looking for something. No, without me by Xiao Wu's side, it will be bad. If he sees Xiao Wu first. Hu Jiu's expression changed, and he instantly started the third soul skill, teleporting to Xiao Wu's room. Fortunately, his residence was next to Xiao Wu, otherwise it would not be so convenient. Xiao Jiu, are you here again? As soon as Hu Jiu appeared, Xiao Wu was awakened. Shh, don't talk. Hu Jiu stopped Xiao Wu, who was lying on the bed, jumped onto the bed with a swish, quickly pulled the quilt away, and her spirit power circulated, covering Xiao Wu's whole body, helping her to cover her breath. This action made Xiao Wu nervous as well. She quietly looked at Hu Jiu, her eyes filled with questions. Go to bed, I'll explain to you later. Hu Jiu pulled on the quilt and covered Xiao Wu's head. He closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep. With his soul controlling ability, it is not difficult to control the physical body. to disguise and enter the sleep state, and Xiao Wu has his cover, so it is no problem. Point in his perception, Douluo has already touched their residential area and is investigating one by one. Fortunately, Tang San is said to be right in front of Hu Jiu and Xiao Wu. After Douluo discovered Tang San's aura, he stopped searching. In the picture in his mind, Douluo stood outside Tang San's room door, and with a wave of his hand, the room door opened silently. Just this small movement suddenly woke Tang San up. When he saw Douluo, he recognized him at once, but before he could move, Douluo had come to his side. Tang San's horrified expression had not faded, and his body had fallen limply. Next, Hu Jiu sensed that Douluo held Tang San under his arm and quietly left the Lanba Academy. No, Tang San was kidnapped by poison Douluo. Xiao Wu, go and tell the dean, I'll go after him. Without giving Xiao Wu a chance to react, Hu Jiu's mind moved, and he launched a teleport and disappeared immediately. Can't say more about this meeting. If Flender and Liu Erlan really catch up, wouldn't it destroy his plan? So, the best way is to let them know where he and Tang San have gone, and let them get there in time. Anyway, he knew that Tang San was not only not in danger this time, but would have a great chance. As a good brother, he just needs to get a piece of the pie, and can't destroy it. Douluo's speed was very fast, and when he left the Skydao city, he left the ground, and flew directly into the sky. This time, Hu Jiu was tired. Although Douluo's flight speed is only average, it can ignore terrain obstacles when flying in the air, but Hu Jiu could only run bitterly on the ground, over the mountains, and over the mountains, and over the sea. And he couldn't make too much noise. It was fine at the beginning, but after entering the deep forest, Hu Jiu began to suffer. While all 5 sense enhancement techniques are on, while avoiding the soul beast, he has to follow Douluo closely. Sometimes, when he encounters a soul beast that cannot be avoided, he has to use his hidden trump card and send out a mental shock, killing all the soul beasts who found him. Fortunately, the spirit beasts in the Sunset Forest are not that strong. So far, Hu Jiu has only encountered the strongest one, who has only been in cultivation for 2000 years under his enormous spiritual power, let alone the 2000-year-old soul beast. Even the 10,000-year-old soul beast might not be able to take a single shot. This chase is the middle of the night. When he found that Douluo had stopped, the sky was bright, and it was already the next day. Hu Jiu quietly touched where Douluo and Tang San were, but didn't dare to get too close, because if they got too close, Douluo would find out. When it was a mile away from the Douluo Expo, Hu Jiu stopped. He remembered that it seemed that the Douluo Expo left for a while, and then gave Tang San a chance to absorb the immortal grass, and this time is his chance. After waiting for a while, Hu Jiu found that Douluo and Tang San's positions began to move. Because the distance is too far, in his perception, he cannot form a clear picture. He can only locate the breath. After waiting for another 10 minutes, Hu Jiu was overjoyed and found that Douluo had left. It wasn't too far away, just where they stopped at the beginning. It was about a kilometer away from Tang San. It's time to act. Hu Jiu suppressed the fluctuations in his body's breath and started teleporting again. Soon, Hu Jiu came to the outside of the poison array arranged by Douluo. However, outside the poison array, Hu Jiu encountered a problem. Because the range of the poison array is too large, it is more than 200 meters, which is far beyond his teleportation range. At present, his teleport distance is only 100 meters, so he cannot enter it safely at all. Damn, it's all over. Hu Jiu's face was ugly, and finally, he stretched out his finger and clicked on the poison array. Although it only touched for a moment, and it was only with fingertips, when Hu Jiu retracted his hand, he found that the entire finger was green, and the range continued to spread. The 4th spirit ability, Holy Light. Hu Jiu was already prepared for this, and with a thought, he used the 4th spirit ability. A white light flashed on the finger, and the toxin on the finger quickly faded. It's possible. This result shocked Hu Jiu. This attempt has proved that Douluo's poison array can't help him. This time, Hu Jiu was very cautious, focused, gritted his teeth, and made 2 teleports in a row, just rushing into the poison array point. However, there was still a pause when teleporting, and when he rushed past the poisonous formation, Hu Jiu was covered in green, dizzy and weak point. He was so frightened that he stopped using the Holy Light Soul skill several times in a row. And it took him a long time to release the toxin from his body point, while Hu Jiu was using his spirit ability to detoxify. Douluo, who was a mile away, opened his eyes suspiciously and felt the poison array he had set up. After finding that there was no change, he closed his eyes and continued to practice. Chapter 171 Immortal Grass. Hu Jiu, why are you? Tang San was about to refine the immortal grass, but found Hu Jiu suddenly appearing in front of him, and his expression suddenly became excited. He was suddenly taken here by Douluo, and he thought he was almost done. Although he saved his life by virtue of his cleverness in the end, he still couldn't stop being afraid. After all, Douluo has a bad reputation. Last night, I caught up after you were kidnapped. How are you? Are you alright? Hu Jiu also looked at Tang San in surprise. Now, isn't it the time to test your acting skills? I'm fine. Tang San shook his head and said to Hu Jiu, I saw Douluo who kidnapped you. Do you know why he kidnapped you? Hu Jiu asked. I have some guesses about this. It should be when that Douluo saw me yesterday and told Douluo that I would detoxify. He seems to be interested in my detoxification ability. Tang San smiled dryly. He was also in bad luck, and because he could detoxify, he was targeted by Douluo. However, since discovering the ice and fire eyes, and so many immortal grasses, he feels as if this is not bad luck. Go, I'll take you out quietly. This Douluo is too dangerous. We can't beat him. Hu Jiu shook his head and said to Tang San, no, I can't go. Hearing this, Tang San refused decisively. When Douluo is titled Douluo, even Dean Flender and Teacher Zhao can't beat him. Besides, I'm sure he won't attack me. How about it? What are you afraid of? I will take you out. Let's leave Xiandao City. The world is so big, he can't find us. Hu Jiu continued to persuade. No need. Although Tang San was moved by this proposal, after thinking about it for a while, he shook his head and refused. In his opinion, although Hu Jiu could take him out or escape to a place where Douluo couldn't find him, there were so many people in Shrek. Douluo is not a good person. If he ran away, he might implicate them. Moreover, he is also confident that, at the very least, until the toxins on Douluo and Douluo are cured, his life is safe. Okay, don't talk about it. You happen to be here. I'll show you something good. Tang San interrupted Hu Jiu's next words and dragged him to the eyes of Binghuo Liangai. What? A light flashed in Hu Jiu's eyes. The thing he wanted finally came. Tang San didn't say a word, only to see him wiping the 24 bridges around his waist on the bright moonlit night, taking out a piece of jade, carefully approaching a fairy grass, slowly digging through the soil, not even destroying the roots, took out the fairy grass completely. Hu Jiu, this is a 10,000 year Zuanshan ginseng. It has the effect of strengthening the root and cultivating the essence and improving the foundation. Your martial spirit is a carrot, which is similar in nature to Zuanshan ginseng. If you take it, it may make martial spirit evolves. It's so amazing. Hu Jiu was inexplicably surprised. Although he knew that immortal grass was a good thing, it would be amazing if he could evolve martial spirit. Originally, he just wanted to raise his innate spirit power level to a decent level. How could he expect Tang San to give him such a big surprise? Well, you see, this Zuanshan ginseng has almost grown into a human form. This phenomenon can only be found in the age of 10,000 years. If you take it, the evolution of the martial arts cannot be guaranteed, but it will improve your innate soul. There is definitely no problem with the power level. Tang San said with a smile on his face. Hu Jiu has helped him so much, and now he can finally help him too. Then, how do you take this? Can you eat it directly? Hu Jiu took the 10,000 years Zuanshan ginseng from Tang San's hand, raised his head, and asked. Tang San shook his head. Zuanshan ginseng can't be eaten. It can only be taken by mouth. You can take the root in your mouth first, and when the root is finished, slice the Zhuanshan ginseng and cut it into smaller pieces. The medicinal properties are too strong. I'm afraid you won't be able to bear it. And it's best to absorb the medicinal properties with spirit power when taking them, so that the medicinal properties will not be wasted. Tang San carefully explained to Hu Jiu how to take this 10,000 years Zhuanshan ginseng, for fear that he might make a mistake. No. Hu Jiu listened carefully to Tang San's teaching method. This can't be wrong. If it's wrong, I'm afraid I don't even know how I lost my life. Wait. For a while, I'll dig a few more immortal grasses for you, and when you go back, help me bring them to Xiao Wu and Boss Day. Having these immortal grasses will help them improve their strength. After speaking, Tang San began to get busy, collecting immortal grass one by one. Then, how long are you going to stay here? Hu Jiu asked. I don't know. It's probably not going to be short. You go back and tell the dean and them. Just say I'm fine. This place is a treasure. It's very helpful for me to improve my strength. Tang San answered while picking the immortal grass road. Hey, you're really good. It's already this time. Don't forget to improve your strength. Hu Jiu said amusingly. Tell you. Do Gubo dare not do anything to me. Don't forget, he and her granddaughter want me to help detoxify. Moreover, with so many herbs, I can configure a poison that people can't detect. If I help them detoxify them by then, and he still doesn't let me go, I will threaten them with this. There was a cold smile on Tang San's face. Born in the Tang sect in his previous life, he is not a good person. With how much Du Gubo values his granddaughter, for his own safety, how could he not leave some means to save his life? Fuck. Tang San's words made Hu Jiu utter foul language. He didn't expect that this kid Tang San would have such a sinister time. Isn't this all for the sake of saving lives? It doesn't matter what the means are. Tang San smiled slyly. Well, since that's the case, then I don't have to worry about it. Then you can enjoy yourself here slowly. Hu Jiu shrugged. Staying in such a treasured land, Tang San was indeed enjoying himself. From the moment he came here, he discovered that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth here is very strong. If he cultivates in this place, the effect will not be worse than his cultivation. In other words, cultivating in this place can also double the effect of cultivation. Of course, this effect was only valid for plant spirits like him and Tang San. After staying here for such a short time, he felt that the soul power in his body had increased a lot. After feeling this scene, he didn't even want to leave. However, it's not impossible. As soon as he turned his head, a very reliable thought appeared in Hu Jiu's mind. Seeing that Tang San hadn't finished picking the immortal grass, Hu Jiu took this opportunity to look at Binghuo Liangai's eyes. This is the source of the growth of fairy grass. With a thought, the 5 senses strengthening technique worked at full force, and the perception penetrated into the eyes of the ice and fire, and carefully sensed the changes inside. He really doesn't believe that there is nothing in it, and it is possible to create such a treasure as the eyes of ice and fire. How can there be something? Chapter 172 Dragon Pill. What? Hu Jiu looked at the things in Binghuo Liangai's eyes in surprise, with a deep suspicion on his face. He didn't expect that there was something in the eyes of Binghuo Liangai, and there were 2 big guys in the depths of more than 100 meters in the eyes of ice and fire. There are 2 keels. In addition, the most important thing is that there are 2 crystals, one red and one blue, on the head of the keel. Could this be a dragon pill? Hu Jiu stared at Binghuo Liangai's eyes with bright eyes, and walked a few steps forward involuntarily. Xiao Jiu, don't go over, it's dangerous. At this moment, Tang San's voice came, which awakened Hu Jiu. This one in front of you is called Binghuo Liangai. It is generally extremely hot. The other half is extremely cold. If an ordinary person touches it, it will either turn into fly ash or freeze into a popsicle. Can't touch. It's so powerful. Hu Jiu pretended to be surprised, but he was really surprised. There really is a treasure. Forget the 2 keels. His most important thing is the 2 dragon pills. In his perception, these 2 dragon pills are the key to the formation of the 2 eyes of ice and fire. Let me see. Since he saw the 2 dragon pills, he must find a way to get them in his pocket. As for whether taking the treasure will make the Binghuo Liangai eyes disappear, that's none of his business. There are benefits, of course, to be willing to get hands driving to the eyes of Binghuo Liangai. Hu Jiu happened to be at the intersection of the extremely cold Yin Spring and the extremely hot Yang Spring point, just standing on the periphery. He felt cold on the left side and extremely hot on the right side point. After holding on for a while, Hu Jiu hurriedly turned around, turning over his body that was about to freeze and roast. "Hey, it feels so sour," Hu Jiu said to Tang San with a grin and bared teeth. "I feel that staying here for a long time will greatly benefit the improvement of physical fitness." "Well, that's exactly what I mean, so I don't want to leave this place." Tang San smiled. "Okay, I'll tell you how to take these immortal herbs, and I'll give them to Xiao Wu when you go back." Saying that, Tang San handed over the boxes containing the immortal grasses one by one, and introduced how to take them one by one. Hu Jiu listened attentively, and took these immortal herbs in mind. What Damu Bei gave was Kerang Tang Xianju, a neutral immortal medicinal herb, which was eaten by qi, and transported to the limbs, and blood flowed through the 8 meridians. The 8-petal celestial orchid for Oscar is soft and mellow. Easy to absorb, but it takes a long time to absorb. It has the effect of solidifying the essence and expelling impurities in the body. He gave Mahanjan the coxcomb phoenix sunflower, which has greatly improved his soul power and flame effect, and can completely solve his evil fire problem. What was given to Ning Grang was the Kilo tulip, which could absorb the essence of heaven and earth, the brilliance of the sun and the moon, and of course, it had the most important function, which was to turn her 7 treasure glazed tile school into a 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda. It's just that Tang San didn't know it yet at this time. 4 ZHU's Yuking is the Narcissus jade muscular skeletal. Function: runs tendons and replenishes bones, circulates qi through the 7 meridians and 8 meridians, and improves the root bone. What Meng Yiren gave was the dragon snake grass, which was also a fairy grass. According to Tang San, this was the treasure of the snake spirit. If you eat it, you might be able to evolve Meng Yan's snake stick spirit into a dragon stick. If you think about it, it is really possible. After all, Meng still has the blood of the unparalleled dragon and snake. It is also reasonable to upgrade Long Po snake staff to a dragon staff. Thinking of this, Hu Jiu suddenly woke up. If Meng Yiren really evolved the snake staff into a dragon staff, wouldn't her 3rd soul skill be possessed by a dragon girl? It's so cheap. And the last one, I prepared it for Xiao Wu. Finally, Tang San took out a jade box with a reluctant expression, and said to Hu Jiu, "This immortal grass is called Acacia Heartbroken Red. Eating this grass, there is something wrong with it. Heaven and earth are the same as immortal art. I conservatively estimate that it can at least raise the spirit power to 10 levels, in addition to the comprehensive transformation of the body, so that people can be fully improved. Among us, it is estimated that only Xiao Wu has the possibility to take her." Why? Hu Jiu's heart was full of surprises, but before he could figure out a way to get Acacia Heartbroken Red, Tang San took it out himself. As expected of a good brother, he knows what he wants, because there is a special condition for taking this immortal grass. When picking, you must think of your loved one, be sincere, and spit blood on the petals. If you are a little half-hearted, even if you vomit blood and die, you can't think about it. Pick the flowers. Then, Tang San told Hu Jiu the origin of this love sickness and heartbroken red. However, to Hu Jiu, all legends were false, and the benefits that could be obtained were real. Based on Xiao Wu's feelings for you, I believe she will definitely be able to pluck the flowers. Tang San said expectantly. In fact, among all the immortal herbs, the most effective is Acacia Heartbroken Red, but unfortunately, the conditions for taking it are very harsh. Even if Tang San envied him, he couldn't take it. You can see clearly. Don't worry, I also have confidence in Xiao Wu. Thinking of Xiao Wu, Hu Jiu's heart is full of tenderness. Indeed, this love sickness red is destined to belong to her. Even if it is him, it doesn't matter. If he has only Xiao Wu in his heart, it is impossible for the immortal grass to recognize the master. You should go. Looking at Hu Jiu's happy face, Tang San felt sour in his heart, waved his hand impatiently, and started chasing people. Okay, then I'll go. I'll see you in 2 days, and bring you something delicious by the way. Hu Jiu nodded. This place can't stay for the time being. Anyway, I've taken everything that should be taken. He has no way to take out the 2 dragon pills in his eyes for the time being, so he has to figure out a way in the future. Anyway, it won't run away with long legs. After saying goodbye to Tang San, Hu Jiu began to return the same waypoint as for Tang San's safety. He really doesn't worry about it now, since Tang San has his own plan. Why should he worry about it? Leaving the journey into the deep forest was relatively smooth, because he didn't have to follow Douluo. He could spend some effort to avoid the Soul Beast point when it was about to get dark. Hu Jiu finally returned to Skydao City. Little 9. At the gate of Heaven Dao City, I saw Flender, Zhao Walqi, and Liu Erlang approaching. Why are you here, mistress? Flender asked eagerly. Don't worry, Dean. Zhao San is fine. On the contrary, he also got a great opportunity. This matter will not be clear for a while. Let's go back and talk about it. Hu Jiu said with a smile. What the hell is going on? Tell me quickly, boy. Liu Erlang asked impatiently when he returned to Lanba Academy. It's like this. Hu Jiu revised the matter, only saying that he found out that Douluo had kidnapped Tang San at night. Then he followed and finally saw Tang San. Damn. Douluo, who dares to kidnap our disciple? No, I want to ask him for an explanation. Liu Erlang slapped the table fiercely and said angrily, thank you Khan God. Book friends 2019121417285237 Chubby eating barbecue, Bayezu, and making good use of the shadow to reward. Chapter 173 Tang San 039's gift. Liu Erlang had a fiery temper, and when he heard that Douluo was in the deep Sunset's forest, he went to him to settle accounts on the spot. Fortunately, Flender was still sensible. After appeasing Liu Erlang, he asked in a deep voice, Zhao Jiu, you just said that Zhao San is not only not in danger this time, but has a big chance. What's going on? Well, it's really fine. Douluo's arrest of Zhao San is based on his ability to produce drugs. According to Zhao San, Douluo and his granddaughter Yan have highly poisoned bodies because of their martial arts, and only he can cure this poison. Hu Jiu explained with a smile. Besides, Zhao San also found a treasured cultivation place in Douluo, so he wanted to take this opportunity to cultivate there for a while. Otherwise I would have brought him back. This kid is so courageous. Doesn't he know how dangerous Douluo is? Zhao Walqi looked at Hu Jiu angrily. So is your kid. He doesn't want to come back. Don't you know how to force it back? No need. Hu Jiu grinned. Little San said that he has a way to restrain Douluo, and I have seen that place, and it is really good. Not to mention he is reluctant to leave. I also want to go. Oh, the treasure land you said is really so powerful? Hu Jiu's words aroused the attention of Flender and others. Well, cultivating in that place, the effect will not be worse than my cultivation carrot, and the environment there can help body refinement, and there are more precious medicines that help cultivation. In short, there are many benefits. Hu Jiu nodded and said. Hu Jiu didn't explain about the fairy grass because it was a bit troublesome to explain. If it's as good as you said, it's really a good opportunity. Flender stroked his beard and said in deep thought. However, Zhao San's method of restraining Douluo is not reliable. You can listen to it. It's like this. Zhao San has a strong ability to produce drugs. He said that he will give her another kind of poison while helping Douluo to treat her. If Douluo doesn't let him go, he will use it as a threat. Looking at Flender, who was asking the bottom line, Hu Jiu had no choice but to tell the truth. Good boy, he actually still has such thoughts. I like it. Hearing Tang San's insidious method, Zhao Walqi laughed loudly and even more agreed with his approach. Well, since that's the case, let's put this matter aside for now. Let's see what happens later. Flender couldn't think of a better way, so he had to follow Tang San's method. After all, Douluo is a titled Douluo, and even if they add up, they are not opponents. After leaving Flender's room, Hu Jiu returned to the residence and was then caught and questioned by Xiao Wu and others. They were very worried about Tang San being kidnapped, and they didn't even care about cultivating point. After briefly explaining what happened, Hu Jiu took out the fairy grass that Tang San had prepared for them. Come on, guys, this is the gift Xiao San brought you. It's enough to make you reborn and be grateful for the gift of your life. Hu Jiu smiled and took out the boxes containing immortal grass from the soul tool one by one. What kind of good thing actually wants us to thank him for a lifetime? Everyone's eyes were instantly attracted to the box that Hu Jiu took out, and their minds were full of doubts. Boss Day, you are the first. Hu Jiu opened the first box according to the order. This strange velvet Tang San chrysanthemum, a neutral immortal medicinal herb. Food key transports the limbs. Blood flows through the 8 meridians, and it can be used to practice the Vajran ability. Bad body. First eat the stamens, and then eat the petals one by one. Don't eat the rhizomes. Immediately after eating, start cultivating on the spot to resolve the medicinal power. Day. Nubei said in surprise. So powerful, how can King Kong not be bad? Of course, this is an immortal herbal medicine. If it weren't for the big chance for Xiao San, you would never see it in your life. Hu Jiu raised her head and said, so, thanks Xiao San. With this, not only can you quickly improve your level, but also 7 there will be no bottleneck before 10th level. Nubei's careful result was quirky in Tang Xianju, and he gave Hu Jiu a deep look. I remember the kindness of the little three. I don't say thank you for the big kindness. Nubei, are not ungrateful. Haha, it's good to know. Go and take it. Don't let down the little three's wishes. Hu Jiu waved his hand and continued to send the next one. Next is Oscar's 8-petal fairy orchid, which is soft and mellow, easy to absorb, but takes a long time to absorb. It has the effect of strengthening the body and cultivating the essence to drive out impurities in the body. After chewing and swallowing, the taste is sweet and fragrant. In the same way, you also need to incorporate the power of your soul power into your body, then slowly absorb it later. Ninth brother, mine. Mahanjan squeezed in front of Hu Jiu with a smile on his face. You can't be without you. What's the hurry? Hu Jiu cast a glance at him. Yours is a coxcomb phoenix sunflower, which has greatly improved soul power and flame effects, and can completely solve your evil fire problem. You will never use it again. Forehead. Hu Jiu suddenly came to his senses. Meng was still beside him, and he couldn't tell his details. Mahanjan also glanced at Meng Yulan with a guilty conscience, and he was relieved after seeing that she had no reaction. Ninth brother, do you think this can really solve my martial soul defect? Of course, hurry up and take it. Don't get in the way here. Hu Jiu said impatiently. This fat man is really useless. It's been so long, and Meng still hasn't made any progress. It's too embarrassing. Remember, don't chew it, just swallow it in one breath. Then use your soul power to refine it, and you have to endure it, no matter how painful it is, or you will fall short. I remember it. Mahanjan clenched the coxcomb phoenix sunflower in his hand and nodded heavily. Ninth brother, what is mine? After Mahanjan left, Ning Rangrang came up. Haha, yours is amazing. Its name is Kilo Tulip. It can absorb the essence of heaven and earth, the brilliance of the sun and the moon. Of course, there is another most important function. That is, it can make your 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda evolve. I heard you only have the 8 treasures and 9 treasures on your 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda, so it will depend on your luck. Hu Jiu teased Ning Rangrang, which made Ning Rangrang feel agitated. Can I really make my 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda evolve? Ning Rangrang almost screamed. As the #1 auxiliary martial spirit in the mainland, a spirit master who owns the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda can only be promoted to the realm of soul saints, which is an eternal pain in their sect. Ning Rangrang's hands were shaking when he took the tulips. She knew that Hu Jiu would not lie to her about this kind of thing. Don't worry, you can do it. Seeing Ning Rangrang's gaffe, Hu Jiu couldn't bear to joke anymore, but instead smiled and encouraged. Next, there were only Zhu Zuking, Meng Yanlian, and Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu couldn't help but want it for a long time, but Hu Jiu stopped it. Of course, good things should be saved to the end point. On the other hand, ZHU Zuking and Meng Yiren did not fight or rob. One was just like that, and the other was embarrassed. After all, she had only joined Shrek not long ago, and her relationship with other people was always a little bit worse. Chapter 174, Dividing the Immortal Grass. Zuking, come here, this is yours. Hu Jiu beckoned to ZHU Zuking. It's called Narcissus Jade Musculoskeletal. It has the function of nourishing tendons and tonifying bones. Effect, among us, except for me, the one with the worst cultivation talent as you. With this, you can catch up with them in terms of talent, yeah. ZHU Zuking pursed his lips, rarely showing excitement. She has a deep understanding of her own cultivation talent. If she hadn't been practicing hard day and night, she might have been left far behind by the rest of Shrek. Now that she knew that the musculoskeletal bones of Narcissus Jade could change her root bones, the vibration in her heart was no lower than anyone else's. Well, remember to only eat the petals when taking it, and suck the stamens at the end, when you can absorb its effect. It also needs to be motivated by soul power. Zuking, remember, you must be calm before you can absorb its essence. Hu Jiu instructed. ZHU Zuking nodded silently and stepped back. Still, come here, take this dragon grass, Xiaozhen said. If you take it, it is possible for your snake stick martial arts to return to the ancestors and become dragon sticks with the same martial arts as Long Gong. Hu Jiu looked at Meng Still and opened the last box in front of him. Do I have it too? Meng Still pointed to himself in surprise, a little in disbelief. Because she only joined Shrek Academy later, and her temper is not very good. She is a bit unruly. But he didn't expect that Tang San, who usually had no contact with her, would actually give her such a precious immortal grass. You are also a part of us. Of course you will have a share if you have benefits, but you also have to remember the goodness of Xiao-san. Hu Jiu handed the fairy grass over, and finally did not forget to let her remember Tang 3's kindness. Well, when the third brother comes back, I will personally thank him. Meng still hesitated for a while, then took the fairy grass readily. Xiao, mine. Take it out quickly. Isn't the immortal grass that Xiaozhen gave me the most powerful? After everyone else got the immortal grass, Xiao couldn't bear it any longer. She jumped to Hu Jiu's side and asked expectantly, well, the immortal grass for you is indeed the best, better than all of our immortal grass. Hu Jiu replied, I knew it was like this. It's still a little conscience, otherwise I'll clean him up when he comes back. Xiao raised her fist happily and waved it as if to demonstrate. Okay, don't be too happy. This fairy grass is a bit special. Hu Jiu stopped Xiao, who was happy, and began to explain the origin of Acacia Heartbroken. The name of this herb is Acacia Heartbroken Red. It is the most precious treasure among the immortal medicinal herbs. It also has a legendary story. A long time ago, there was a young man with a tranquil nature. Lotus root, or 1,000 purples and 1,000 reds. I usually sing to the flowers, raise a glass to invite the moon, and when the flowers fall and remain red, I'm infinitely sad. I will sweep the flowers, bury them in the ground, and weep again and again. As the saying goes, love moves the world. His love Hua Liangpin moved the flower fairy in the sky, and privately the world married him as husband and wife. Xian Shao returned to the realm of the gods. Since the young man lost his love, he sighed all day long, was unhappy, and abandoned the flower affairs. So the walls fell, and the fence fell, the flowers and trees faded, and the garden was desolate. One day, a white-haired old man came and told him the white peony flower that he loves in the garden is the incarnation of his beloved wife. As long as the flower is destroyed, the flower fairy will lose the fairy body, and he will be exiled to marry him again. But the flower affairs must not be destroyed. The words turned into a breeze, and the young man suddenly woke up, deeply regretted that he treated the flowers poorly, and took good care of the flowers and plants. Although he loved his wife, he couldn't bear to burn the peony flowers. Naturally, he loved the flowers even more. Broken, lovesick and heartbroken, when he was dying, he splattered blood on the petals. You can see that the red blood stains are the efforts of that young man. A poignant story came out of Hu Jiu's mouth. After he finished speaking, not only Xiao Wu's face was full of tears, but the rest of Shrek were also infected, and all of them had red eyes, especially the other girls were moved to tears. Flowers are extraordinary. Choose the owner. You must think of your loved one when picking. Be sincere and spit blood on the petals. If you are a little half-hearted, even if you vomit blood and die, you will never even think about picking the flowers. Eating this herb has the same immortal power as heaven and earth. It is conservatively estimated that it can at least raise the spirit power by 10 levels. In addition, it will completely transform the body so that people can be fully improved. Xiao Wu, try it. If it doesn't work, forget it. After a few days, I will go to Xiao San to get another one for you. Hu Jiu had a tender expression and touched Xiao Wu's head to comfort him. Puff. However, before Hu Jiu could finish her sentence, Xiao Wu decisively forced out a mouthful of hard work and sprayed it on the flower bones of Acacia Heartbroken Red Point without shaking for a bit. Acacia Heartbroken Red quietly fell from the Hu Jiu stone and was easily caught by Xiao Wu. Xiao Jiu, you lied to me. How can it be as difficult as you said? Xiao Wu said with a smile, but deep in her eyes, there was pure and persistent love. That's because you are too powerful. Otherwise, how could Acacia Heartbroken Red be so easy to recognize the master? Hu Jiu concealed the shock in his heart and said with a smile, point the fact that Xiao Wu can easily get the approval of Acacia Heartbroken Red is enough to show the affection in her heart. As for who the target is, there is no need to guess because of this. Hu Jiu was shocked. Although he had already speculated about this, he was still very moved when he actually saw this scene. There is a single-minded, unswerving person who loves him deeply. Hu Jiu feels that his life is worth it. It is undeniable that Hu Jiu put a lot of thought into getting Xiao Wu's love, but isn't this proof that he likes Xiao Wu? If he didn't like it, how could he start planning so early? Okay, let's take the immortal grass. I also want to refine the immortal grass. Hu Jiu looked up at everyone and couldn't wait. Tang San had already said that his 10,000 years Zuanshan ginseng might be able to evolve his martial spirit. With Tang San's words, he knew that the evolution of his martial spirit would definitely succeed. After all, it was the golden mouth of the Son of Destiny. With Tang San's words, the possibility of martial spirit evolution increased by at least 90%, and the remaining 10% was afraid of pride. I don't want to take it. Such a beautiful fairy grass. What a pity to take it. Xiao Wu looked at the Acacia Heartbroken Red in her hands, full of reluctance. Damn, the immortal grass has already recognized the master, and now it is a rootless weed. If you don't take it, the medicinal properties will gradually disappear and eventually become a waste grass. It is better to take it when it is most delicate and beautiful forever in my heart. Hu Jiu's eyes flickered, and he persuaded without changing his face. Before giving it to Xiao Wu, he had thought of this, so he concealed the fact that after Acacia Heartbroken recognized the master, it would never fade away. After all, no matter how good immortal grass is, until it is eaten in the stomach, farts are not. Just like in the original book, if one accidentally falls down, isn't his plan a failure? Chapter 175 Martial Spirit Evolution. Hearing that Acacia Heartbroken Red would not be preserved for long after leaving Wu Jiu, Xiao Wu no longer objected, but her eyes were still obsessed with the fairy grass in her hand, her face full of reluctance. It's okay. Hu Jiu quietly sighed. For Hu Jiu, Acacia Heartbroken Red is of course to let Xiao Wu eat to maximize the benefits. After eating the immortal grass, not only can she hide Xiao Wu's spirit beast aura, so that title Douluo can't see it, and it can also improve her level. Xiao Wu is now at level 38. If she takes Acacia Heartbroken Red, it is conservatively estimated that it can be raised to level 48. In this way, she is one step closer to her goal of level 70. For Hu Jiu, he can only rest assured when Xiao Wu reaches level 70 and becomes completely human. By the way, brother Ninth, we all have immortal grass. What about yours? Let's see what your immortal grass is. Mahanjan asked curiously. Haha, my immortal herb is 10,000 years Zuanshan ginseng, and its medicinal effect is similar to yours. Hu Jiu didn't say much about this. He just waited for the immortal herb to give them a surprise after the martial spirit evolved. Okay, it's all gone. Go and take the immortal grass. I can't wait. Hu Jiu waved and started chasing people. If he hadn't given them immortal grass, he would have eaten it long ago. Hu Jiu's words made everyone impatient. One by one, carefully holding their own fairy grass, they returned to their room. After everyone was finished, Hu Jiu also closed the door, took out his immortal grass, and started taking it. According to the method Tang San taught him, Hu Jiu carefully removed a root of 10,000 years Zhuanshan ginseng, put it in his mouth, and started refining. As soon as the root of Zhuanshan ginseng entered, Hu Jiu felt a strong medicinal power burst in his mouth, and he did not dare to neglect. He immediately activated his soul power, and began to digest the medicinal power of Zhuanshan ginseng. A quarter of an hour later, the medicinal power of a root of Zhuanshan ginseng was refined. Hu Jiu felt it, and his spirit power rose by almost 1/10 of the 47th level. As expected of a fairy grass, its medicinal properties are powerful, even though he had expected this. When Hu Jiu really felt the power of the immortal grass, he was still surprised. Judging from the current progress, if one consumes the entire 10,000-year-old Zhuanshan ginseng, the spirit power level can definitely break through to level 50 or above. It seems that our Shrek is going to have a rank explosion. Just in time, we will hunt for spirit rings together, so as not to trouble the dean and teacher, to run a few more times. After trying the effect of 10,000 years Zhuanshan ginseng, Hu Jiu couldn't wait to continue taking it, refining the power of the immortal herbs. With Hu Jiu's refining, his martial soul carrot also changed without him noticing. Carrots have always been known as little ginseng. And Hu Jiu's carrots are also evolving towards ginseng. The original pale red carrot began to turn white, and the volume slowly shrank, becoming similar to the appearance of the 10,000 years Zhuanshan ginseng. 3 hours later, the last piece of immortal grass was refined by Hu Jiu. At this time, his spirit power level had reached rank 50, of course, and this was not his limit. Just because he didn't have a 5th spirit ring, he was stuck at the level martial soul. Now, the moment the refining was completed, Hu Jiu ignored the change in his level, but couldn't wait to summon his martial spirit. Following his thoughts, a carrot that looked like ginseng appeared in his right hand, a bit like a man, with a head, body, hands, and feet, like a simple wooden man. Haha, it's really evolved. Hu Jiu ecstatically stroked the ginseng carrot spirit in his hand. Yes, through induction, he has learned the name of his martial arts, not carrots, nor ginseng, but a martial soul in between, named Hu Shen. I'm afraid it's going to go against the sky this time. Hu Jiu shivered and put the ginseng in his hand into his mouth to chew. A medicinal fragrance burst in the mouth, sweet and crunchy, just a little harder than the previous carrots. The chewed ginseng turned into a warm current, which was digested by Hu Jiu's body. Through perception, he already knew the specific effect of the transformation of the martial spirit. The spirit ring skills have not changed, and their effects are still the same as before. The first spirit ability absorbs, the second spirit ability changes, the third spirit ability teleports, and the fourth spirit ability holy light. But one thing has changed. It was because of this that Hu Jiu said that his martial spirit was going against the sky. This is because his martial soul can have a weak evolution effect on his martial soul without soul skills, and it is also useful to him himself, but the absorption effect of himself will be weakened, only 50%. Although the effect is weak, it cannot hold a large amount. If you take it for a long time, the martial arts can continue to evolve, especially the beast martial arts such as Daimyu Bei, Mahangjin, Xiao Wu, and Zhu Zuking. Once the martial arts evolve, the blessings to the body will undergo earth-shaking changes, and the martial arts is linked to the innate soul power. That is to say, as long as you take Hu Jiu's Hushin martial arts for a long time, the talent will get better and better, and the training speed will get faster and faster. As long as there is enough time, even a pig, Hu Jiu can cultivate it into a god, king of the gods. It's me. Hu Jiu roared excitedly, venting his excitement. Xiao Jiu, you are too narcissistic. Open the door. We have been waiting for you for a long time. After Hu Jiu finished venting his emotions, there was a sound of laughter outside the door, and even Xiao Wu's voice contained a deep smile. Hu Jiu, it's this social death. After a long silence, Hu Jiu got up and opened the door with a blank expression. Haha, brother Jiu, it turns out that you were like this too when you were a sophomore. Damu Bei used the vocabulary he learned from Hu Jiu and joked, Xiao Bei, do you want to be beaten? Hu Jiu glared at Damu Bei fiercely, then swept his gaze around, making Oscar, Mahanjan and the others who were preparing to join forces to make fun of them froze. They can't bear Hu Jiu's fist now. Tell me, how many levels have you all improved? Seeing that he had subdued them, Hu Jiu began to change the subject. Let me talk about it first. Damu Bei said with a wry smile, because there is no spirit ring, although I feel that my spirit power has increased a lot. The exact level can only be known after obtaining the 4th spirit ring. However, the physical strength does. It's a big change, although it's not as bad as Jiu's King Kong, but it's not too far behind. Oh, since that's the case, then we'll really have to practice later. You can't digest the medicinal power of the immortal grass all at once. You need to increase your training during this time. Hu Jiu's eyes lit up. It seemed that Damu Bei, this sandbag, can't run. And you too. The medicinal power of the immortal grass is very strong. In the recent period of time, you should not be lazy. You should increase your training and try to digest the medicinal power of the immortal grass as soon as possible. These words were not only said to Damu Bei and others, but also applicable to Hu Jiu. He used to think wrong, thinking there were only a few immortal herbs, but Tang San told him that there were many immortal herbs, but not many were suitable for taking them, and if he wanted to take immortal herbs again, he could only use the previous immortal herb. After digestion, it can be taken again. Therefore, Hu Jiu had already made up his mind that he would take the absorption of the medicinal power of the immortal grass as his first goal for a period of time in the future, and he also had a better way to speed up the absorption. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.